Good morning.
Whoa, sorry about that. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Have had a little issues getting the feed up. I don't know why. I've checked all the networks. Finally got the live feed to court. Thank you, dear Jesus. So, with that, everybody, thank you for joining me. I'm Ada Kay, and we are watching the George Kelly trial. It's the trial that he's being accused of killing an immigrant on his ranch. And oh my gosh, it has been an interesting trial, but it is just now starting to really gear up. So we're going to hop on in, and we are going to start right with, sorry, I'm trying to get the right screen up. There we go. We're going to hop on in with the actual trial, and we're hopping right in. Sorry about that. Why is it? Let's redo this again. Your audio share. Go large. There we go. And we're starting with a witness.
Is recalling Officer or Deputy Castaneda to stand. I believe we were in the defense's cross-examination when we took the break for the experts last week.
Now, this gentleman has already testified. They were in the middle of doing the cross-examination. They had to take a witness out of turn due to the previous witness's schedule and whatnot. So we are now back to cross-examination.
For the record, you're still
And yay, we have good audio.
okay. All right. Let's continue with this process.
So just to recap, we were talking about this last time, but you arrived at the property, Border Patrol was already there, they were doing some preliminary searching, and you and other deputies did some searching of this property, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall seeing Border Patrol do a perimeter search of the house? Do you remember that?
I recall them being there.
And you don't know where exactly they were in relation to the house when you arrived?
No.
Okay. So when you searched this area, describe for me why you searched the area that you searched.
Because the information provided to us was that Mr. Kelly had walked outside his house and started following a subject that he had seen possibly carrying weapons and backpacks.
And the area that you searched, did you search it because that's where these subjects had supposedly been seen?
Huh?
Repeat that.
Yeah, I knew that was coming.
The particular area that you searched with it was 3 other deputies, right?
Correct.
Was that an area that you searched because that is where Mr. Kelly had been seen or where these subjects had been seen?
I don't exactly recall why we started in the area where we started.
Okay. Do you know who has that information? Which deputy?
No.
Okay, but one of you in that group of 4 has some information that we need to search this general area, right?
Yes.
And I think the state showed you a picture of a map. I'm going to show you some drone footage. Can we put this up? It's already been admitted. This is State's Exhibit 36. I'm just going to play the footage for you. It goes from the patio on the east side of the house out over the desert area, and then it sort of turns around so you have a view looking back at the house. When it gets to that view, I'm going to pause it, and you can tell me if you can show me on there where you guys all fanned out, okay?
Okay.
Finally, I get a concept of where the fence is and then the road. So that's a pretty...
I was trying to pause it. Let me go back. Or forward.
That cone is where the body was.
Looks like something that you can recognize that would be helpful. You can tell me to pause it there.
There's the
I'm
house.
going to pause right there. Is that a helpful view for you to be able to describe where it was that you guys searched approximately? Okay. And you mentioned you went over the first fence on 2 ladders. Can you show us where those were?
I would say right there.
Do you know how to mark on there on the screen?
Yes. I'm not able to see the
By the way, during the break, we will do our birthdays.
Close to the pump house?
Yes. Yeah.
So I see the big house, and then to the right, there's that little small structure, which is the pump house. And then if you go a little bit further to the right, I think you can see the horse right there.
There's
Are the
your
ladders
horsey.
more or less in that area where the horse is?
Yes.
Probably
Okay.
right there.
And can you just, do you know how to draw on the screen?
Yes.
Could you go ahead, just put a mark on there where the horse is to show where the ladders are?
For those of you who don't know, a lot of
I'll see
time
if I can
ranchers will
see
put
I
a
can't.
ladder
Oh, well.
over the fence
There we go.
or border
So that's
patrol,
where you
so
all
they don't have to
crossed
break the
over
fence down to
first
cross it.
fence, right?
Correct.
And then I think you said you were all sort of together going through to the second fence, right? And then can you show me where it is that you fanned out, if you can?
I wouldn't be able to tell you from here.
Does it need to back up a little further?
Probably yes.
Let me see if I can move it.
It's kind of odd having a cross-examination 5 days, 4 days, 5 days later, but sometimes it happens.
Okay. Can you just describe, in relation to the house, the search, my understanding is it's further away from the house than what's on this image. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you just describe, in relation to the house, at what line approximately you all were searching? So if we drew a line back to the house from where you guys were, what would those lines look like? Could you draw them for us?
So you want me to draw it from how we walked out to the fence line? Is that what you?
I want you to draw if you're already on the other side of the second fence, because that's when you fanned out, correct?
Yes.
Wish they'd
Draw
show it.
lines going back to the house from where all of you were fanning out. I know you didn't go back to the house, but I think that'll just give us an idea of how spread out you were and where you were in general. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just not really sure exactly where we started and to go towards the ladder.
I'm talking about after you get over the second fence. And then you spread out. I'm just trying to get an idea of how far spread out, what the distribution was like.
I'm not really sure like how I would be able to do that. I don't see the second fence line here.
Hang on.
I apologize.
Oh, that might have been you. You can hit undo. There we go. So you can see the first fence line in this picture, right?
Yes, I believe it's should I mark it?
Yeah, just put a point on there so we can see where the first fence line is. Okay, and then the second fence line is down at sort of the bottom of this picture, right?
Correct.
And you guys did not search this area in between the fences, right?
Correct.
And why not? Why didn't you search that area?
Because I'm not sure.
Okay, so you go over the second fence and you all spread out and search from there. How far apart were each of you when you were searching beyond the second fence?
I couldn't tell you.
Do you know what order you were in? Was somebody to your right and somebody to your left? Were you at the far end? How do you remember that?
No, I was somewhere in the middle. I couldn't tell you the exact order.
Okay, and then you just continued onward until you hit a wash. Is that right?
Yes.
And once you hit the wash, do you follow the wash to the right or to the south to hit a road?
No, I kept on walking south until I hit a third fence line.
Did you south through the wash?
I crossed the wash. I went onto the wash and then up the wash.
So you continued going east, is what you're saying.
At the time I was heading south.
Okay, and then you eventually hit another fence line somewhere?
Yes.
Do you know how far away that was from the house?
No.
Okay. And then you came back to the house, is that correct?
Yes.
And that was because you had heard that the homeowner had been located?
Correct.
All right. And so how did you go back to the house?
I walked back until I hit a third road. That's where I met Deputy Cabrera and Deputy Monreal.
Okay. And just to be clear, when you were searching, you were carrying a rifle, is that right?
Yes.
That was because of the nature of the call. That was dangerous, right?
Yes.
And you were looking for people who were potentially armed, is that right?
Correct.
And you were looking for people who were maybe potentially hiding, right?
Correct.
And you were looking for people who might potentially be injured, right?
Not at the time.
No, you weren't looking for people who might be injured?
Not at the time.
Okay. But you were looking for people who might pose a threat?
Correct.
Okay. And then when you go back to the house, is the homeowner already there? Just describe to me going back to the house.
I walked back to the third road where I met Deputy Cabrera and Deputy Monreal, and Mr. Kelly was present there. Then I got on to the deputies' units, and they gave me a ride back to the house.
So you met up with Mr. Kelly out on the property somewhere?
I saw him out of the property. Yes.
Okay. And then you went back to the house, and he went back walking, right?
Correct.
When you got back to the house, what did you do next at the house?
I talked to Ms. Wanda Kelly,
Who else talked to Wanda Kelly when you were there?
Sergeant Garcia.
Okay, so both you and Sergeant Garcia were having a conversation with Wanda Kelly, is that right?
Yes.
And describe Mrs. Kelly's demeanor when she was having a conversation with you.
She appeared to be confused to me.
Why do you say that?
It was just, I don't know, the way she was answering when I would ask a question.
Did she seem distraught when you were speaking with her?
Could you use a different word for it?
Did she seem upset?
Not really upset.
Did she seem agitated?
A little bit.
Nervous?
Yes.
Shaken up, maybe?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember how long you spoke to Mrs. Kelly at that time?
No.
Did you ask her? You didn't ask her to do a walkthrough of the scene or anything like that, correct?
I don't recall. No.
So you didn't ask her to say, show me where you were standing when you first saw people or anything like that, right?
I don't recall asking that.
And you didn't ask her, did you, how far away were they? Which direction were they going? Show me precisely where you saw them. You didn't do anything like that with her, right?
No.
Okay. Do you remember? Can we take that down, Valeria? I'd want to make sure nothing pops up on the screen up there. Both you and Deputy Garcia or Sergeant Garcia had this conversation with Mrs. Kelly, correct?
Yes.
And you documented this conversation in your report, correct?
Yes.
Presumably Deputy Garcia also documented this conversation in her report, right?
I would assume so.
And that's standard practice whenever you go out. Everybody documents these kinds of things in their reports, right?
Correct.
And you and Deputy Garcia are having the same conversation with Mrs. Kelly, right?
Yes.
And so the reports that you both wrote should contain essentially the same statements. Is that correct?
Yep.
They should.
Do you recall Mrs. Kelly telling you that she heard shots?
Yes.
And would it surprise you to learn, well, did you document that in your report, that Mrs. Kelly stated that she heard shots?
Yes.
And so Sergeant Garcia also should have documented that in her report, correct?
She should have documented what she heard.
Would it surprise you to hear that Sergeant Garcia in her report documented that Mrs. Kelly stated she did not hear any shots?
And she would have documented what she heard at the time.
If she documented that Mrs. Kelly stated, "I didn't hear any shots," Sergeant Garcia would be incorrect. Is that right?
Again, she would have documented what she heard.
And you would have documented what you heard, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
And if you documented Mrs. Kelly said she heard shots, and if Sergeant Garcia documented Mrs. Kelly said she didn't hear shots, then one of you is wrong. Is that right?
Not necessarily.
Actually,
Unless Mrs. Kelly said both of those things, right?
she could have said both things.
And if she said both of those things, that would be pretty strange, right?
Yes.
And that's something that you would probably document in your report, right?
I would have.
If she said both of those things, right?
Correct.
But you didn't document that in your report, right?
Documented what I recalled hearing from her.
And what you recall hearing from her is, "I heard shots."
This has been asked and answered. Let's move on.
When you were speaking
Thank
with
you
Mrs.
for watching.
Kelly, you
Please
didn't
like,
record
comment, and
this
subscribe.
interview, did you?
I do love to
And
communicate with
Sergeant
my
Garcia
audience during
obviously didn't
trial.
record the interview either, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
And obviously, if there was a recording, then it could be cleared up exactly as to what was said, correct?
Correct.
Correct?
But we don't have that in this case.
Nope.
No.
And the same is true for Mr. Kelly, correct?
Correct.
So people spoke with Mr. Kelly, but nobody recorded his statements, right?
Not on my end.
Do you know if anybody recorded his statements?
I'm not sure.
There's a
And
lot
after
of
speaking with Mr. and Mrs. Kelly, you
conflicting
get more of the
information.
story. Is that correct?
Yes.
So you learn from these interviews that in general they heard a shot or shots, right?
Correct.
And then they saw some people running with rifles and backpacks, correct?
Possibly carrying rifles and backpacks.
Right. And then after you received that information, nobody did any additional searching. Is that right?
Correct.
Why didn't you do any additional searching?
Because at the time Mr. Kelly had been located, our main concern was Mr. Kelly's safety, and not finding any subjects. We assumed that the threat that we had responded to was no longer there.
They did not find the
You
body.
were getting information about
at
a
that
pretty
time.
serious crime. Is that right?
It was found on the second arrival on
People
property.
carrying backpacks and rifles, that's a serious crime, right?
Carrying a rifle is not a crime.
If you're trespassing on someone's property, that's a crime, right?
Trespassing, yes.
And if you're carrying a rifle while you're trespassing on someone's property, that makes it a bit more serious, right?
It's an
And
elevated.
potentially dangerous, right?
Yes.
And if you're carrying backpacks that are highly suspicious, that's possibly indicative of a crime, correct?
Not necessarily.
Are you in a high drug trafficking area when you respond to Mr. Kelly's property?
Yes.
Undocumented immigrant trafficking area.
Drug trafficking also?
And in the 6 years that I've worked for the sheriff's office, I haven't responded to a call, and that involves drug dealing in that area.
You did on January 30th, didn't you?
Yep.
The call was in reference to subjects running with carrying backpacks and rifles.
With large backpacks and rifles, right?
Correct.
You put two and two together, that's possible drug trafficking, right?
Objection, argumentative, Your Honor.
The large backpacks were like your
You get
military
this
duffel
information
bag
about these
size
crimes being committed
backpack.
on Mr. Kelly's
They were
property,
huge.
and
They
you get
weren't just a
information about his
school
shot being
backpack.
fired, correct?
Correct.
Shooting is on somebody's property without their permission is a crime, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Shooting at another person is obviously a crime, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And that could have been happening out there based on the information you received, right?
Potentially, yes.
And even after receiving that information, nobody thought to go do a more thorough search of this area, right?
Not at the time.
Nobody thought to possibly go look for the source of that single shot that Mr. Kelly reported, right?
We did went out to search for the source when we first arrived while we were looking for the subjects of Mr. Kelly.
I'm talking about after Mr. Kelly tells you about that single shot and the subjects that he saw. You didn't go do a more thorough search after that.
Not after the first search.
And you're aware, obviously, that later in the day, a body was discovered, correct?
Yes.
And that body was discovered with a single gunshot wound, correct?
Yes.
And you later learned that that was in that general area that you folks had been searching, correct?
In the general area, yes.
And so now there's the question of, was this body there when we searched the area and did we just miss it, right? That's one possibility, right?
Potentially.
Or was this body not there when we searched this area? That's another possibility, right?
Potentially.
And that's a question that we have that's unanswered, correct?
Correct.
And that question possibly could have been answered if after Mr. Kelly gave you information, you folks had gone out there and done a thorough search of that area, right?
Yes.
Then we would know for sure, right?
So he just admitted
But now
the
we
search
know.
was not thorough. She's good. I like her. Sorry, I got excited.
I don't have anything else, Ryan.
Oh, they're going to address this on redirect.
Deputy Castaneda, if Mr. Kelly had told you that he went out onto the patio and fired 9 shots east towards people, or even if he told you he thought he shot them in the air,
He did.
would you have done a more thorough search?
Yes.
He did. He did tell him. He did.
Council asked you about Ms. Kelly's statements to you while you were out there that day, is that right?
Yes.
And what specifically did Mrs. Kelly tell you about the shots that she heard?
She told me that she heard shots.
And what else did you document when she told you that she heard shots? Do you recall?
No.
If you looked at your report, would that refresh your recollection?
Yes.
What I find interesting is that they did not find the body on the first search, but yet they were all in that area. There were multiple people there on scene. So for me, I struggle
Can
with
you
that.
refresh your recollection?
No, I wasn't sure.
Oh,
how to
please,
do it.
go right ahead. Please look at your report.
Either the victim was hiding and still alive, and then once they left, continued walking and died where they found him, or he was already deceased and they overlooked him. But yeah, that's confusing, and it's, no matter how you slice it, it's either he wasn't there or they overlooked him.
What was it that Mrs. Kelly told you about the shots, and what did you document?
That she heard shots and that she appeared to be confused at the time.
And what did you say in your report that she appeared to be confused about?
Clarification.
Yes, please.
Where she heard the shots, when she heard the shots. Just saying.
She said that she was confused about, I documented that she appeared to be confused about what she heard.
So she's confused about what she heard
Correct.
after asking her about the gunshots.
70-year-old woman hearing gunshots, husband running out with a
And
rifle, and she's
did you
scared.
ask her if these individuals were carrying backpacks and rifles?
Yes.
And what did she say?
She said that they were carrying rifles, and I asked her if all of them were carrying rifles.
And how did she respond?
She said no.
She said not all of them were carrying rifles.
Correct.
Even if one is carrying a rifle, that's it. Sorry. I'm anxious to see who they bring on next.
When you spoke to Mrs. Kelly, did she tell you who she heard shooting?
No.
Objection, hearsay.
Yeah, you interviewed her. That was good. So they're trying to say the shot she heard was the husband's
So nothing in
shot.
your report documents who she heard shooting the weapon, is that right?
That's correct.
Thank you. That's all I had, Your Honor.
So,
All right, ladies and gentlemen, jury, any questions from the jury for this witness?
questions. Give us questions. Come on, come on. I want to hear what the jury's thinking.
Very well.
Dang it. Okay.
Jury finds questions.
Do we have questions? Yes, we have questions. Okay. Real quick. We're going to run through real quick what happened previously. We have the witness that testified, whose name was Daniel, who is a friend of the deceased, has come into the United States illegally 9 to 10 times. He has been caught once carrying a bag of illegal content that you smoke. I have to be careful with what words I use. He was very confused and inconsistent with his distancing and time. How far it took him to get so far and what time he got where. He also works as a construction worker, masonry, which confused me about his inability for measurements. That confused me. All right, here we go. Oh, no, they're still doing it. Okay, the forensic guy came on. He was useless other than to say the gun can shoot the bullets straight, a bullet straight. He tested the rifle in question, which is an AK-47, and stated that the bullet can go straight. Other than that, he couldn't testify to anything.
There's one word you wrote. I can't read your writing as to one word. It's Deputy Castaneda something question mark.
The question was, may I formally ask what?
Well, what's that word? Deputy, and then Deputy Castaneda. I can read the rest of it, but what's that one word? Deputy Castaneda. It's like,
Indicated that.
okay, got it. All right, thanks.
Okay, I didn't understand that. Now they're going to talk. So, he said that there are other bullets and other weapons that could make a similar wound, but it would have to be the same velocity like the AK-47. It also never went. The forensic scientist never went on scene. He never did the laser. So this is where the defendant shot from. There's the victim. They never did any laser at the height. He never measured the defendant. He never measured where the gun was held on the defendant, where the victim was, any of that. He didn't do any of that. He just did the ballistics on the gun itself, shot some rounds, made sure that it was not yawing severely in either one direction, made sure it was a sure shooting gun. The bullet was never found, and that the witness, here we go.
All right, the question from the jurors, the juror is, Deputy Castaneda indicated that all were armed with rifles or some. So we're going to try to clarify this and answer this question through additional questioning from the parties versus the state. I'll give the question to the clerk.
I didn't catch that question.
First of all, Deputy, did you talk to Mr. Kelly about what he said that he observed that day?
Yes.
And what did Mr. Kelly tell you with respect to the subjects, the individuals that he saw, and whether or not they were carrying rifles?
He advised me, or he told me that he observed them wearing backpacks and possibly carrying rifles.
So his word to you was possibly.
Correct.
From that
And then
distance,
did you
at
speak
his
to Mrs.
age,
Kelly?
with his vision?
Yes.
And Mrs. Kelly also told you that she thought she observed rifles. Is that right?
Correct.
Once
And
again,
what
thank
did
you
she
for joining
say
me.
About when you asked her whether they were all carrying rifles, what was her response?
She said no.
Reasonable. So let me finish my comment. So basically, we were talking about the forensic guy.
I think that's all I had, Judge. Thank you.
Larkin?
When you asked Mrs. Kelly, were they all carrying rifles, and she said no, she had previously stated that some of them certainly were carrying rifles, correct?
She didn't mention certainly. She said no.
But she said she saw
I'll be right back,
rifles
y'all.
or a rifle, right?
Correct.
Okay. And just to be clear, neither of these conversations were recorded by anybody as far as you know, right?
Correct.
I don't have anything else.
All right, any other questions for this witness from the jurors? Sir, did that answer your question?
Usually does.
Very good. All right. Thank you.
Officer, sorry, I could step down, thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And this,
We discussed the scheduling.
all right. So you can call its next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Deputy Lopez.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help me God.
Sir.
Good afternoon. I guess it's morning, isn't it? I don't even know what day it is. Sorry about that. Could you tell the jury, please, your full name and your occupation?
My name is Rafael Lopez. I'm currently a deputy sheriff at the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been a police officer?
10 years.
And have you spent all that time with the Sheriff's Department?
I started in 2009, October 2009, with the Sheriff's Department as a detention officer. I spent 2 years at the detention center. I was applied for a patrol division and I was accepted in 2011. I then attended the academy and the Soletzi Academy in Tucson, Arizona, and graduated in 2012.
Could you maybe pull the microphone a little closer to you? I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Maybe you could just pull it closer.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you. You're soft-spoken like me, so. Could you tell us, you said you attended the academy. Is that the standard academy we've heard other officers talk about? Anything unusual about your academy?
It's a Soletzi Academy in Tucson, Arizona. It's a Southern Arizona Law Enforcement Training Center.
And how long's the academy?
I stayed there since September 2011 till January of 27th, which is when I graduated in 2012.
And you've been with the Sheriff's Department ever since?
Yes,
And were you on duty on January 30th of 2023?
yes, I was.
And what were you doing that day, early in the day?
I was working at the school when I heard the call.
And what were you doing at the school?
I was a school resource officer
So at the time you were assigned as a school resource officer?
at that time, yes.
And what kind of call came out that would pull a school resource officer?
Emergency call, alert tone.
And alert tone, we heard about that earlier. That's when you hear a specific sound on the dispatch?
Yes, actually, since I'm assigned to the school, I'm supposed to stay there till the day ends, and it was around that time. So I did hear the call earlier once I was done with traffic and everything, I proceeded to the area as well, just to, even though I knew already they were maybe set the scene, I just proceeded in case they needed some backup or assistance.
Sorry about that, guys. I had a
Finished up your
package
school
arrive.
day, and then you decided to head on out to the call. Is that
Yes.
okay?
Who are we
So when
talking
you
to?
arrived, do you know how many other deputies were on scene?
There were 2, 3, 4.
Do you know what time you arrived at the scene?
I left from school at 15:06 and arrived sometime 15:27, 15:28 hours.
So close to 3:30 in the afternoon?
Yes.
When you got there, what's the first thing you observed when you arrived?
I saw the patrol cars in the area, and I went straight to one of them. I think I heard over the radio that they were looking for Mr. George Cal, or a subject with 2 Glocks and a rifle. So I went and approached one of the units, the patrol cars, and that was Sergeant Julia Garcia.
And after you spoke with Sergeant Garcia, what did you observe next?
Well, when I was talking to her car to car, she mentioned that she could hear dogs, and she pointed to the distance, and then we saw that there was 2 border patrols coming with a male subject, and she said it was probably him.
So you saw 2 Border Patrol officers, and what were they doing? Were they walking? Were they in a vehicle?
They were walking with Mr. Kelly.
You later identified him as Mr. Kelly?
They did, correct. Because he was walking towards patrol cars, and they said it was him. So I just remained there for a few minutes, and then I knew it was him, because that was the reason I was there too. Kind of, I just remained there for a few minutes, and they said it was him.
And what did you see of him when you were there?
He was carrying a rifle, and his dogs were with him.
And did you see him here in the courtroom today?
Yes.
So he's walking around his property with a rifle.
He's wearing his blue shirt and blue vest.
And could the record reflect the witness's identification?
I missed who this was. I was receiving a package.
And after you knew that Mr. Kelly had been located, and that was why you were there, was to help locate him, what did you do next?
I just went back. I left the scene. I think they remained there still while I left.
So you were there pretty briefly, it sounds like.
Yeah, probably 10 minutes or less.
Did you have some involvement in this case later in the day?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell us what started that involvement later in the day?
Well, I was actually working Operation Stone Garden.
And could you explain what that is to the jury, please?
It's a different assignment that we work ourselves at after we're done with our patrol duties. We sign up for that. It's usually overtime. It is overtime. So what happens there is that this operation, it's working alongside or in conjunction with Border Patrol to assist with any illegal narcotics or immigrants coming in through the border. What happened that day, I
Thank you
came
for
in
joining.
to work Stone Garden at 4 p.m. That's why I left the scene that day, so I could be on time to start the other assignment. I started at 4 p.m. and then It runs from 4 to 8 p.m. But while I was working the Stone Garden, I was assigned to Duquesne Road, which is nearby where the incident had occurred earlier with Mr.
So
Kelly.
a border patrol agent is being
So I took it upon myself
interviewed.
to go check the side, the roads that lead to the border. And that was just in case I saw, because they had mentioned there were subjects running earlier. And I said, you know what, I'll check just in case there's somebody hiding or it's already past 3 hours or 2 hours since this occurred. They could now think that we're not here. We'll probably, if there's somebody walking in the area, I'll probably see them. So
Reasonable
I went
thinking.
to a Forest Service road, which is a side dirt road that leads to the border. And I was there when I heard
Y'all be kind about his speaking slow. This is English is his probably his
Making
second
sure
language.
I understand what you're telling me. You check out of the call at the Kelly residence and you check on to Stone Garden, but you decide you're going to go ahead and search the area because you're concerned.
because they assigned me to that area, Duquesne, which is the road that passes through Keno Springs Village in Duquesne. It leads to that area near the ranch.
And so you said you drove down a Forest Service road. And did I understand you to say the Forest Service road that goes to the border?
Yeah, those Forest Service roads, technically, they're roads that interconnect and they lead to the border. If you follow them all the way, they lead to the border wall or the fence.
Did you see anything while you were looking in this area?
No, I was looking, and I didn't see anybody in the area.
And then I think you documented in your report that you were at Duquesne and a Forest Service road. Which Forest Service road was that?
4667.
I'll be back.
Okay, and when you were at that Forest Service road in Duquesne, what's the next thing that happened?
I heard over the radio that dispatch was saying that Border Patrol had called saying that to proceed again to the same area where we had gone before, which was Mr. Kelly's place, and mentioned that he had struck something.
And what time did this call come out?
Around 1756,
And what time is that in non-military time?
like 5:56 p.m.
And when you got this call, what did you do?
Even though I was nearby, I decided to go and assist because this call was given to the patrol officers, whoever was in charge of that district. But I decided to go myself as well, just to make sure everything was fine. I actually arrived before the patrol officer that was supposed to head over there. I arrived before.
Okay, so a patrol officer got deployed as well, and you, because you're in the area, went ahead and
Because, yeah, it was the call was given to a patrol officer.
All right.
The same one, I think, since it's too far from Eureka for them to make it all the way to the ranch, and I was nearby, I proceeded myself as well.
Was there something about the call that led you to be concerned before you arrived?
Well, yes, because earlier we had heard that there were shots fired, and we didn't know if it was something was going
Always a
on.
big concern.
That's why I said it will assist.
When you got there, at some point, you were concerned enough that you did something. What did you do when you arrived?
Pulled out his gun.
Well, actually, When I arrived at the gate, I saw Mr. Kelly coming towards the gate. He was on the phone, and I decided to turn on my recorder, my issue recorder from the sheriff's office.
What caused you to do that?
Well, the reason was that we knew that
Standard procedure when you arrive on a scene with shots fired?
or that the shots were fired. So I needed the information just to get it correct.
And did you document this recording? Did you put that into evidence?
I did.
And when you put that into evidence, what item number did you mark it with?
Item number 1, RL.
They're going to play that. We're going to see it, y'all. Probably, I would assume, since she's asking about it. Y'all, it feels like a Monday. Oh, I wanted to say that
What's been marked as State Exhibit 38. Do you recognize that item?
Yes,
How do you recognize it?
because it's a copy of the CD that I turned for the recording that I got that day.
And how do you know that it's a copy of that recording?
It says here, Lopez recording off count.
Did you review that recording and initial and date it on the back of the envelope?
That was on July 25th of 23, which was last year.
this happened January 30th. So you didn't do anything with it, or you watched it on the 25th.
And is that an accurate copy of the recording you made of Mr. Kelly on January 30th of 2023?
Yes.
You're going to move for admission of State's Exhibit 38?
No objection.
Exhibit 38 is admitted.
You're under permission to publish?
Permission granted, you need to dim the lights or?
Your Honor, it's just an audio recording, but I do have a stack of transcripts to hand out for everyone that I've provided to the JAA with the court's permission.
I guess for the record, I'd object on the best evidence rule. I think that just hearing the recording is better than the transcript.
And Your Honor, I can lay the foundation for the transcript as well because the deputies observed
So
that as
is
well.
the audio difficult to hear?
It can be judged. It's just for everyone's convenience in following along. Some of it is kind of faded in and out, so you really have to listen.
And it's all audio, it's not video. All right, you can go ahead and distribute those to the jurors. But so members of the jury, you're going to get a transcript of whatever it is you're going to hear. The evidence is the recording itself. The transcript is not evidence. The transcript is just there to, it's not being admitted, so it's not going into evidence. The transcript is there to aid you, if you want, to try to understand what's being said on the recording. But if you hear something different on the recording from what's in the transcript, the recording is the evidence, not the transcript. It's kind of like another one of those, what I call demonstrative exhibits. And listen carefully, because when you go back into the jury room to deliberate the case, the evidence will be recording and you won't have the transcript. So the objection's overruled.
And just for the record, Deputy Lopez, did you also review the transcript that we're going to look at with this recording as well?
Yes.
And was it accurate?
Yes. I did do a correction on which is on page 3, fourth line. On my report, it said if he shot it, and on the recording it says who shot it. I asked him who shot it. That I made that correction.
Okay,
He for who?
it should be, he shot him?
No, who shot him?
It should say who shot him.
It's on page 3.
Okay,
So the correction's been made on the transcript.
the correction was actually to his report, is what I understand. Is that
Yeah,
right?
to the supplemental report. Yeah, it's later was discovered on, and that word was changed to who shot him.
Okay, so the transcript's actually accurate.
Yes, I also made the correction on the first line of the supplemental report. The case number was listed as 21-01-30-006 instead of on the report, instead of 23-01-30-006.
Okay,
That was fixed, and then
but that's not the transcript, right? That's an error, both are errors in your report.
yeah, no, the transcript, the only error was that the he for the who,
Okay,
which the who is incorrect.
and could we have the? I'm sorry, it's not the wrong, right? Can I have a look, please?
I appreciate y'all understanding. I do have to sometimes leave and get up and take care of other things. When you live stream for 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day, you will have to do that periodically. Okay, while they're just sitting here like this, let's just kind of speed up a little past it. Okay, and play.
Shot fire, not in the way. Okay, so I went out to get the horse, always bring him in and feed him. Put him in the back. I went out there to get him. And y'all guys, you weren't over here? Yeah, I was. Y'all walked all over them. And the border patrol walked all over. And maybe this happened after you left.
Zoom back out, please. No, don't do that. No.
Yeah.
Oh, camera person, zoom out.
I didn't, as soon as I saw it, I backed away.
Oh,
Place that. It's dead. The body, the person. I have no way.
so here's tip one. He didn't have the large backpack. He had a small one on, which a lot of them had the large ones on.
He had a pack, a small pack. Now, if you remember, we saw 5 to 10 drug runners come through with large backpacks. Yeah, he did not have a large backpack, but he had a small and he was in hand here and camo. And, so, as soon as I got him, straight back to the car, I called Border Patrol because that was the first ones I called. Because I didn't really know how to call you guys. So I called Border Patrol, Jerry Morissette. He called the Border Patrol agent, and they said they're going to call the sheriff and they'll send someone out. Then your secretary or dispatcher called me. I was on the phone with her when you drove up. Oh, okay. And she said he's coming out right now. I have no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea. And you know, if you were me, You got no ID. What I'm saying? Yeah. Okay. If you can pull up behind my car. Okay. You go ahead. I'll leave you. I don't. Sorry. Drag you out.
That's not appropriate. Captioning, so cute. I don't think that's what he said. I've got it ganged up as much as I can, y'all.
It could be a body that, it could be, the body could have expired after y'all were here. I have no idea. Stuff running around all over this place all the time, you know.
Gosh, he reminds me of my grandpa. So much.
Yeah.
I wish they provide a transcript for this, guys. Hard to stand, I'm sorry.
And Deputy, is that the recording of your conversation with Mr. Kelly?
Yes.
Did you turn your recorder off at that point?
Yes, when he was leaving to his house to get his jacket.
Notice nobody ever took the weapon. It was 24 hours after all this had happened before they went back and got the weapon in question. Just FYI. Oh, I was saying, and watcher cut me off. The witness, Daniel, said that he was standing behind the victim. I got cut off.
A map of the area that's been admitted as State's Exhibit 114. And can you tell me where it is that you came into the property and where you went with Mr. Kelly? And in front of you is a stylus.
So anyway, while she's instructing him, the bullet went through the victim. It's called a through and through shot.
You can either draw.
If Daniel was standing behind him, he would have been shot too. So there's inconsistencies with that witness testimony as well. Okay, now we're going to zoom out and then zoom back in. The woman on this camera said that on Friday, I believe it was, no, Thursday, it was her first day doing this camera. She accidentally showed some witnesses.
Aerial view stuff.
I mean,
I'm sorry,
jurors.
an aerial view of the area.
Yes.
I believe the victim was found over
If I zoomed it
here.
in, would it be helpful for you?
Yes.
Here's the ravine, or the wash as they call it. There's the wash.
And do you see,
There's
a
the dirt
gate?
road.
Do you see the gate where you mentioned that you met with Mr. Kelly?
Would have been right
Zoom in
here.
a little bit more.
I can't, actually.
Right here.
That's good, yes.
I think it would be right there.
Okay, I don't see the gate, but it should be.
So he has one there.
There.
Is it
Probably has one
possible
there.
a little further north than that?
Thank you, camera, for zoom. Don't zoom in too much. Right there. There's the dirt road. There's a fence here.
I mean, you can move that screen.
There's a
little if you
pergola.
need to.
There's the barbecue pit.
It's not a house, but
Okay, so you think the it's in that area?
the first gate.
Okay. And when you came through the gate, where did you meet with Mr. Kelly? Was it at the gate?
Yes, at the
Probably
gate.
right. Yeah.
And where did you pull in?
At the gate?
When he opened the gate, we stopped right there when I was talking to him and I was recording. Then, as I came in slowly, at the end, I went to the south side of the property,
That's right here.
where the tractor and the trailer was at.
Did you see that in this aerial view? Do you have a glare on your screen? Or you have
I think it's at least 3 football field lengths from the house to the
so that's the area you
wash,
told her
as
to
they
go.
call it.
Yes.
And then
There's
what did you do once you got to that area?
He was walking from his house back to where I was at.
And then what had he done at his house? Do you know?
He said he was gonna pick up a jacket. He would meet with me over there so he could take us or take me to the site where
the
the
remains.
body was located.
And so you waited for him there by the trailer?
Actually, it was only like a minute. He was already coming back. I parked, and I was looking at him. He was coming. As soon as he arrived, there was another patrol car coming.
And do you know what time that was that the other patrol car arrived?
It was like approximately 6:50 p.m. 6:17, 6:16.
And who was in that other patrol car?
It was Sergeant Omar Rodriguez.
And did he pull his patrol car near where you were?
Yes, he parked approximately 10 feet from my patrol car.
And what happened when Sergeant Rodriguez arrived?
I was already off my vehicle, and Mr. Kelly was also with me. And when he saw the patrol car arriving, he asked who it was, and I told him it was one of the sheriffs.
And what did Sergeant Rodriguez do when he got there?
He came straight to us.
And when he got there, what did he ask Mr. Kelly to do?
I don't remember what he asked, but Mr. Kelly did mention that there was a flashlight that he left where the body was at.
And so at this point, Mr. Kelly's telling you he left a flashlight near the body?
He told Sergeant Rodriguez.
Okay. And after he told Sergeant Rodriguez that, what did Sergeant Rodriguez do next?
Well, Mr. Kelly was talking to him, and I was behind him. And then he told him about the flashlight, and Mr. Kelly told him about the flashlight.
Sorry about bumping the mic. It's a little chilly in here. I had to get my blanket.
He then, Sergeant Rodriguez asked him if he was armed.
And what did Mr. Kelly say?
He said he was.
And then what happened after that?
Sergeant Rodriguez told him that if it was okay if he could leave his gun here instead of carrying it over there. Mr. Kelly, if he was good to leave it, and Mr. Kelly said yes.
And what did Mr. Kelly do at that point?
He took his gun from his waist, and I don't remember if I got it myself or he put it himself in the trailer, because the trailer was like maybe 10 feet from us, 12 feet.
What kind of trailer?
It's a small horse trailer.
But in any event, somehow Mr. Kelly's
You don't remember if you put it there or he
weapon
put it
that he had
there?
on his waist was
That's
left
unusual.
in the trailer.
Yeah, the door was it was on the back door inside.
In the back door on the inside of the trailer.
That's not really securing a weapon. Sorry.
And then what did y'all do next?
We proceeded to follow him or go with him towards the other gate that's right next to it. We then walked towards the area where the flashlight was at, and
Do you know what time this was?
no, it was very quick. When Sergeant Rodriguez arrived, it was probably 4 minutes later.
And so you head toward the area where the flashlight's hanging in the tree, is that right?
Yes.
And where was that on this map, generally, if you know?
Yeah, generally it was probably somewhere in the
Okay, you gonna zoom out and show us, please?
And
Thank
so
you.
how did you get there?
walking.
Did you mark this area at all, or are you just guessing?
What do you mean?
You circled an area on the map. Did you document that in any way with GPS or with anything?
Not me. Not me.
Somebody else did that.
Somebody else did that.
So the circle you just made,
It's
that a guess?
technically east of the house, of the ranch house. Southeast.
so that area, that circle you just drew is not southeast of the ranch house, is that right?
It's to the east of the house where the body was at. Didn't get the coordinates or anything, but I know we walked to that side.
I don't think he's correct.
And how did you get there when you walked? Were you just hiking through the grass, or was there a path? How did you get there?
There was grass and I believe there was a little path, but it was not too marked. I don't really remember, but it was like a 3-minute walk, 2 to 3 minute walk.
So you walked for 2 or 3 minutes, and what did you find after you walked for 2 or 3 minutes?
When we got there, I could see a body, and I just stopped right there before we all stopped. Then Sergeant Rodriguez approached the body and started examining to make sure it was or check if the person was still alive.
Did Sergeant Garcia have some conversation with Mr. Kelly?
It was Sergeant Rodriguez, not
I'm sorry.
me.
Did Sergeant Rodriguez have some conversation with Mr. Kelly at this point?
Yeah, they did have a small talk, and he went straight to the body.
Did you document the conversation between Sergeant Rodriguez and Mr. Kelly?
No, he probably documented it, so.
Do you recall the conversation at all?
No, I just remained there because the 2 dogs were also nearby. I concentrated on not disturbing or leaving any, because I know there was going to be some footprints or something. So I just stood there with Mr. Kelly, and he stayed with me as well. And Sergeant Rodriguez examined the body.
And then what's the next thing that happened?
Well, I was able to see from where I was standing, probably more than 10 feet, there was a person lying face down, and he had a stain of blood on his right side.
Entrance
I could
wound.
see that there was a black radio next to him, and then a little fanny pack on the side as well. The person had tactical boots. I don't remember what he was wearing, but soon after, Sergeant Rodriguez said the person was deceased.
I'm going to show you
Don't show the body again.
next what's been marked as State Exhibit 35, image number 0038.
Okay, that one's
It's already
okay.
been admitted.
I was hoping she wouldn't do the autopsy again. I was about ready to bleep
Is
out.
this what you observed when you were there that day?
Let's see.
Yes.
And you talked about a tree with a flashlight in it. Is that the tree in the background you're referring to?
Yeah, it should be a tree next about 10 feet from where it was, from where the body was.
Does that appear to be accurate?
Very accurate.
And I see some lights in the background. Is that the Kelly residence in the background?
The only thing out there is a house. There's nothing else.
I think so.
Do you know?
Yeah,
I assume
the tree,
so.
because the tree was to this side and it was pointing, the house was to that side as well.
So does that appear to be accurate?
Yes, it would be the house, the ranch.
So after you're there and Mr. Kelly and Sergeant Rodriguez have a conversation, what's the next thing that you do?
Sergeant Rodriguez told me that we should go back and take the dogs to the residence.
Yeah, you don't want them messing up the crime
For
scene.
taking the dogs, you know?
Because they were running around and he didn't want the scene disturbed.
And so did you do that?
Yes, me and Mr. County, we went back and took the dogs.
But then you get a picture of the dog peeing next to a bullet. That's really keeping them out of crime scene. Didn't do a good job.
Well, from there we walked all the way to his house, the same route we took when we left the patrol cars. We passed through
Be right back.
trailer, kept going, walked all the way to the house, to the garage area, and he left his two dogs inside.
After he did that, where did you and Mr. Kelly go at that point?
We then went back and walked to the patrol cars and stayed outside near the patrol cars.
And what's the next thing that happened?
I told them that we were gonna wait for more assistance from deputies to come and then we remained there for probably more than 40 minutes.
At one point, did Sergeant Rodriguez ask you to do something?
Yeah, I believe we were there when Sergeant Rodriguez told me to remove the gun from the trailer and secure it in my patrol car.
And did you do that?
Yes, I did.
And who arrived next to the scene?
I know more deputies arrived. We were there. I believe it was I'm not sure if it was deputy.
And that's okay, it doesn't matter who was the next person to arrive, but at some point, did Sergeant Garcia arrive at the scene?
Yes, they started arriving, but since I was over with Mr. Kelly, they never met with me or anything. I know that they started coming in more patrol cars.
Did you see what Sergeant Garcia did at that point when she arrived?
No.
At some point, did Sergeant Pacheco arrive?
Yes, he did arrive.
And what did Sergeant Pacheco say when he arrived?
He later went to where I was at and met with Mr. Kelly.
And what did he do with Mr. Kelly?
He told him he needed to get a statement from him and told him he was gonna head down to told him that he needed to go with him because he needed a statement from him.
And before he did that, did he search him?
He retrieved his cell phone, magazine with ammo, and folding knife in a pouch.
And what did he do with those items?
He gave them to me.
And after he retrieved those items, did he place Mr. Kelly in handcuffs?
Mr. Kelly was placed in handcuffs.
Was there some issue about putting gloves on Mr. Kelly because it was cold as well? If you recall.
I don't recall. I don't.
And so after he handed those personal items over to you, what did he do next?
What did he do? He left with Mr. Kelly from where we were standing. And from there, I just remained at my patrol car and secured the items inside my patrol car as well. And then Sergeant Julia Garcia came up to me shortly after and provided me with a crime scene log that she had already started and told me to stay there. I moved myself to where the other patrol cars were at, the ones that followed. And from there, I just remained there, logging in whoever came or whoever left while I was in charge of the crime scene log.
At some point later that evening, did detectives arrive?
Yes,
And there were detectives there earlier as well, correct?
yes, Sergeant Alfonso Otis arrived.
Sorry, y'all. I
And
thought
did
my lunch
Sergeant
was
Flores
here, but
go
it
out to
wasn't.
where the body was located?
Dang it.
With Sergeant Rodriguez, if you
I
know.
ordered Chinese.
I never saw him with me, so he was probably over there.
Okay, he wasn't with you, so you don't know where he was.
I don't know, he was.
It's a little cool
Now,
in my
later that
office.
evening, did detectives arrive with a search warrant?
Yes,
What time was that?
I don't recall the time, but they began.
You're
searching
supposed to
inside
document
the
this
residence.
stuff.
Was that before or after midnight, if you know?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Probably after midnight.
And when, at
Okay,
some
guys.
point, the items that you had in your patrol car, did you turn those over to someone else?
I'm going to go get my lunch.
Yes, at the end, when they were in the residence, they told us that we could leave sometime like 1 a.m. So before leaving at that time, I passed those informations to Detective Mario Barba. I told him I have those items, and I gave it to him at that time.
So just so we're clear, you said that you had Mr. Kelly's handgun from the trailer, is that right?
Yes, and then the 3 other items.
And do you know, was that a .40 caliber handgun? Do you know?
I wouldn't even know.
So you just turned over whatever it was that you took from the trailer to Mario Barba?
Yeah, from the trailer, and then the 3 items.
And then the 3 items you turned over were the cell phone, the magazine with the ammo, and the pouch with the folding knife.
Yes.
Did you do anything else at the scene? Or was that the end of your involvement?
That was the end of the involvement. I mean, technically, I just stayed there with Mr. Kelly all that time until Sergeant Pacheco arrived and took with him. I did speak with him as well.
Okay, that's all I had, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, thank you. It's a good time to break for our mid-morning break. We'll take a 30-minute break, so we'll be back about 10. We'll be recessed until about 10.
Behind, order.
Okay, y'all. We got a break and I got my lunch. What am I having? Someone asked. I'm having Chinese. I got some awesome soup. I've got some steak and chicken from the hibachi grill. It is so good. They didn't cut the steak up. That's unusual. So I'm going to let it cool a little bit because it's hot. DoorDash over here is really good. I very seldom have anything that's not hot. So with that, we're going to move. Put me on hold. There we go. Oh, didn't mean to do that. There it is. All right. So we've had some interesting little things today. This gentleman that's testifying right now, I'm not too sure. Honestly, I'm not gleaming any new information. My chicken's good. No, I'm not gleaming any new information at all. The only thing that gets me is it was not clarified, as you can see my dog in the background, because I got food. About the wife talking about how many shots and all that. They need to clarify that. I wonder if she's going to testify. Somebody asked about my little Highland cow. He's my little mascot, or she. We need to name it. We need to name the Highland cow. It is my little mascot for the channel, I think. My daughter gave it to me. I love it. I didn't know I was collecting Highland cows, honestly. I have a couple in my decorations in the back. Poof. But my daughter decided I needed a stuffed one. You know how college kids are. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. I'm going to eat a little bit and then I'll come back. Got to eat it while it's hot. So I'll come back. With that, y'all have a nice break. I'll see you in a minute. Thank you so much for allowing me to get myself something to eat. I am back, and we're going to do a few things. First, I'm going to put on my glasses so I can see what I'm reading. And I have a scripture of the day. Look at these beautiful cards, watercolored. I got 100 of these, so 100 days in a row. It was a birthday gift. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your request to God. Philippians 4:6. Philippians 4:6. So that is today's scripture reading. We have some birthdays in the house, so let's rock some birthdays. I will read them out as we go. Here we go, guys. Here's the birthday song.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Sharia.
Happy birthday to
Caitlin.
you. Happy
Amanda.
birthday.
Kimberly. Debbie.
Birthday
Liana.
to
April. Belinda. And Greg Young.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Well, happy birthday, Greg. Oh my gosh, haven't seen you in years. Would love to see you again, my friend. You want to talk about a walking miracle? That man is a flippin' walking miracle. Belinda, April, Liana, Debbie, Kimberly, Amanda, Caitlin, and Sierra. Happy birthday, my Facebook friends. I hope you have a rockin' awesome birthday. All right. So now let's go back to that one. What else were we going to do? Oh, we are going to be having a competition. I'll put it on Facebook for naming my little Highland cow. We need to name my little Highland cow. I don't know if it's a he or she, so we'll figure that out. And we also need to name my screaming goat when everything becomes a muck. That is what I use. And if it gets really bad, we go code red. So with that, we are still waiting for trial. They are taking a 30-minute break. I am cruising everything. Let me give you a little bit of more information. If you did not get to see the Thursday witnesses, they did take witnesses out of order a little bit. So we had to kind of get everybody back together. With this morning's opening witness was cross-examination from Wednesday. So ballistics on Thursday, to me, I gotta say, was a joke. I think the prosecution thought they were going to have this ta-da moment, and I could barely give them a... That's all I could give y'all. It was not what they had hoped. I am really... on both sides of the boat, I really think the prosecution defenses are doing a good job. However, I think the defense is at this point kind of winning. But once again, I haven't seen all the information. And someone texted me, man, you're being really hard on the prosecution. I'll be equally hard on the defense when they're up. And if I hear things that I don't agree with, I'll say something. I am not a lawyer. I have thought about going to law school. I need to get a bachelor's degree, and I thought, well, maybe I ought to go into some criminal justice or something. I don't know. I'm thinking about it. But I'd want to work with deaf people who have been accused of crimes or going through a lawsuit, because there's only one lawyer in Texas that I know of that knows sign language. So, yep, that'll be it. I had, what did I have for lunch? I had Chinese. I had steak and chicken with mixed vegetables. I didn't even eat the rice. I was a good girl. Let me let somebody know. I have leftover steak and chicken and fried rice if you're interested. my son. I have a very small stomach, so I can't eat a whole lot at one time, and sometimes I give my leftovers to my son. So, one thing I was trying to say is the witness, Daniel, who is a Honduras illegal immigrant in Mexico and has tried to come over here 9 to 10 times, is self-confessed, and he got caught coming over the U.S. border with weed. And I'm trying to be careful, YouTube. And so, needless to say, he was a really credible witness, but he was talking about the shooting and how he was standing behind the thing. Hi, Kathy. Thank you for joining me. But he said he was standing right next to behind, if I understood it right, but it was hard to understand the victim when he was shot. My thing is that as in the Hannah Gutierrez Reed trial, Alec Baldwin fired what he thought was a blank empty weapon and ended up with a live round in it. The projectile went clear through the cinematographer and then hit the director in the shoulder. So the witness stated there was approximately 10 shots that were shot. And he states that I'm like, okay, if there's 10 shots that shot, sorry, y'all, why were you not hit? That's a lot of projectiles being shot. If you're that close to the victim, I would assume you would have been too. He did state he thought the horse had been shot because it was bucking and running. I think he was just startled. The horse was not harmed. No animals were harmed in the commission of the crime that's being accused. So that's good to know. We are in the process right now of, recap, sorry. Friday, the ballistics, a bullet was never found. The ballistics forensic person, witness, did agree that multiple bullets could make a similar entrance and exit wound. He did say that there was a yaw on the bullet because of the way it entered and exited. The prosecution tried to say that the projectile had hit a tree and yawed off, and but when they cut off that part of the broken limb, they found no lead residue, which would have been there had it had impacted the tree. The other thing is that they never went to the scene and did anything. He relied solely on the testimony and the information given by the sheriff, border patrol, or other agents in their reports and photographs. I'm like, dude, you're being paid all this money and you didn't even go to the scene. There was drone footage and all that, but I would want to put an X where they say the shooter and the victim were. The shooter is approximately 6 feet tall. If I was them, and I've seen other trials where they would set up a laser at 6 feet, or will come down where the shoulder was. They would measure the defendant for this area here, where the gun would have been butted up against, or wherever he shot it from, hip, shoulder, whatever. And then they would have figured out the height of the victim, where he was impacted with the projectile, and they would have done a ballistic laser and tried to determine if it was possible for it to come from that area. There is a huge smoker between, let me see if I can pull that up. Images of the I'm going to pull that up. Here we go. Share this tab. Let's see if I can make, oh, didn't want to do that. Let me see if I can visit site, make it taller, make it bigger. I don't need an ad. Okay, I want to share this, so let's share tab. All right, we're going to put me here. If you look here, the house is right here. This is the Mexican border. Right here is where the fence, the actual wall ends, and a fence is actually a barbed wire fence, okay? So let's go back here. I want that house. Oh, I keep doing that, my bad. I'm going to go to that image in the Daily Mail. Come on. Okay, this is what I want to show. I don't know why all this crap is coming up on my screen. All right, so here's the house. Here's where I have a question concerning the current witness on the stand. He states that the body was found where my mouse is. Why is, oh, I want to share this tab, sorry. He says it was found where my mouse is circling, when in reality, it was found over here. Okay. Now, this is the patio and everything. Let me see what it shows. The fence, here's debris on his property. Let me kind of exit out of this. I want to try and find a better image where they have, they actually have where you can see the smoker. Maybe this is a better picture. Nope. So you have a big barbecue smoker between the victim and the shooter. You also have two fences. You have trees and 115 yards. Now, at 115 yards, that's over the length of a football field. And you have maybe if I put court photos, that'll hop up. You will have a very difficult time hitting anybody, and if you did, it was just by sheer luck, especially at the age of 73 years old, wearing glasses, and let me do this. Trying to see if I can find some images. So there's a huge, and unfortunately I'm not finding it, but in the backyard they show images of the cooker. The cooker appears to me to be approximately 6 feet by, gosh, at least 6 feet wide. I'm Googling it a different way. See if I can find the images. I'm getting everything but. That's weird. I'm getting everything but. I'm getting all other kind of trials, but not that one. I got to download those images. So, when you're sitting there looking, a bullet doesn't go straight. It kind of comes up and down. With the gun that he had, it's not as accurate the further away it gets, so I'm told. although it has been known for someone to shoot 800 yards and actually successfully kill somebody with said weapon, but that's unusual. So let's go ahead and walk through the highlights of the daily trial. So on day one, both sides delivered their openings. Border migrant murder trial, murder of defense. Okay, we're going to watch it. Gabriel Belmeta and Daniel Ramirez, without warning or provocation, from 115 yards away. They gave conflicting statements and exaggerated the threat they posed. In a call with a dispatcher, he called the victim an animal. He was trying very hard not to say that there was a deceased person there because he was afraid, from what I gather from the defense's cross, that he was afraid that there still might be people out there watching him. And if it's cartel have no problem taking you out. I'm just trying to see. There was inconsistencies because the witness said that he did not see Gabriel with a radio or a fanny pack, but he had a backpack, a fanny pack, a radio, and on the phone of the deceased, there were images of him multiple times through different times of the year with the same clothing on, with the same backpack, with the same everything, including binoculars and a radio. A typical immigrant crossing is not going to have a radio, only the traffickers and or the cartel. Day 2, Arizona Public Safety Trooper Officer Reina testified to the drone images, testified to the distance to the home and the patio where the body was found was approximately 350 feet or 115 yards, covered by vegetation. On cross, Kelly's attorney introduced a zoomed-in view from the alleged location of the shooter, showing the limited visibility. The jury heard a voicemail of Kelly after left for Mr. Morcell, another Border Patrol agent. He was the rancher's liaison, and said, "Call me immediately." Call log showed 5 phone calls and messages to Morcell on the day of the incident. Morcell was off, so he transferred over everything to the people who were on duty. I'm going to check our live feed, okay? Day 3, the jury had testimony from Daniel Ramirez, who was with Gabriel at the time of the shooting. A lot of conflicts there, a lot of confusion. And someone said, well, language barrier. No. You work as a masonry and a carpenter, you know what a yard is, or a meter. And you know that he knew the length of a football field. He said it was two lengths-ish football fields to the border. In fact, it is not. Hey, court is coming back. I'll put that feed on. I will be right back, y'all.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I just want to go back to, you responded to the first call that happened in this case earlier in the day, is that right?
Yes.
But that was just very briefly, you sort of touched base with Sergeant Garcia and then you were done, is that right?
Yeah, I remained there a few minutes, so.
Okay, but you'd seen the property and you knew where it was from going on that first call, right?
Yes.
And then later in the evening, you are doing Operation Stone Garden near Duquesne Road, correct?
Yes.
I think you said that you were on a Forest Service road that connects with Duquesne Road, is that right?
Yes.
That Forest Service road, is that to the east generally of Mr. Kelly's property?
Southeast part. It's on the on the east side.
So Duquesne Road generally sort of goes west to east, right? East-west? Duquesne Road?
It's on the east side of his residence.
The Forest Service road, right?
The King Road, and then Duquesne Road has several dirt roads or Forest Service roads that start from it.
And those kind of connect up with each other and eventually go to the end of the wall, is that right?
Some of them, the one where I was at, it's one of those that leads to that area.
Okay. That's not on Mr. Kelly's property, correct?
No,
That's some distance away from his property, correct?
it's a Forest Service road, so,
Do you know how far away it is from Mr. Kelly's property?
no, you can't see I wasn't able to see look for the house from there. I was just on that road.
Okay. And it took you some time when you got the call to drive out to Mr. Kelly's property, right?
Yes,
About how much time, do you remember?
probably a little bit more than 10 minutes.
And so the Forest Service Road is about a 10-minute drive away from Mr. Kelly's property, more or less?
Yes, because like I said, it leads to the water, so I was like, I was farther in on that road.
Okay, so you go back to Duquesne Road and then over. I gotcha. And when you get to Mr. Kelly's property, you turn on your recording, is that right?
Yes.
Why did you turn on the recording that you had with you?
To get the facts, the initial facts.
What kind of a device is that? Is that something you carry with you or something you leave in your car?
It's a small, it should be recorded, probably an inch,
Do
2,
you,
3.
it's not a body cam, correct?
No, it's not.
It's not something that you wear on you when you answer calls,
No.
right? You carry it with you in your car,
Yes,
and you bring it out if you ever think, I need to record something. Is that right?
yes.
Do other deputies have the same recording devices in their cars? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. But yours was issued to you from the sheriff's department?
Yes,
Okay. So you take this recording out and you begin to record when you arrive at Mr. Kelly's property, right?
yes,
And that's the recording that we heard, and that's the transcript that you have in front of you, correct?
Mhm.
Is that a yes?
yes,
And you mentioned making a correction to your police report, right?
yes,
And I want to just kind of drill down on that a little bit. So you document in your police report what you believe Mr. Kelly said to you. Is that correct?
I documented what I heard of the recording.
Okay. So when you write this police report, this is January 30th. Do you remember when you wrote your police report?
I wrote it, probably the following day, maybe 2 days later.
And when you were writing that report, did you listen to the recording, or were you writing this
2
from
days
memory?
later?
No,
Supposed to do it
I
before
listened
you
to the
leave.
recording in order to put in what he said.
Okay. And in your report, do you have it in front of you by any chance?
No,
And if you don't, I can show it to you. But in your report, it says, I asked him, meaning Mr. Kelly, I asked him if he shot him, and he said he had no idea. Does that sound like what you documented in your report that you later had to correct?
yes,
Okay. So how did you become alerted to the fact that this was wrong? What you wrote down in your report was wrong and you needed to correct it.
because I had a transcript, which is the one that I have here in front. That I reviewed later on at the county attorneys, just to make sure that everything was correct. And that's where I saw the discrepancy.
And that's a pretty significant discrepancy, correct?
Yes,
Because originally you wrote down that Mr. Kelly stated, in response to your question, did you shoot this person? He stated, I don't know, essentially. That's initially how you documented that in your report, right?
he said he didn't know.
That's what you documented in your report initially, correct?
I don't have the report with me, so I
You want to
just
take a look at it? Can you pull up on his screen so you can take a look at the report? And you should be able to see it on your screen in a minute. And it's in the second paragraph there.
yeah, I see it.
You see it? And so it says, I asked him if he shot him, and he said again he had no idea, right?
He said,
And so that the implication there is that you asked Mr. Kelly directly, did you shoot this person? And he said, I don't know, right? That's the implication of what you documented in your report, right? And that was not correct, right?
no, it was, he shot him.
And that completely changes the meaning, right?
Yes.
You asked Mr. Kelly who shot him, and he said, I have no idea. That's very, very different, right?
Yes.
And so you obviously needed to make that correction because that was a significant error, right? And it's really a good thing that you have this recording, right?
Yes.
Because then you could look back and go, oh, wow, I wrote down the wrong words in my report. I need to change those, right?
Yes.
And that only happened when you reviewed the transcript, correct? That's when you caught that error?
Yes, since it's on the transcript, it's like word by word.
You stopped recording Mr. Kelly at some point, correct?
Yes.
Why did you stop recording him?
He went to pick up his jacket and I stopped the recording when he left to the house.
And why did you stop the recording?
Because he was not with me at that time, he left to his house.
But then he came back and joined you and showed you where the body was, right?
Yeah, he came to me with me at the near the trainer.
And just to be clear, when he first encountered you and you came up to the house, he said that there was a dead body and it was a person, correct?
He said it was a dead, fresh body.
And if you just give the transcript in front of you,
Yeah.
and it's on page 1, and I'm looking at line number 21. You see that?
Oh, yeah, it's a person.
So that's the first time he's encountered law enforcement on his property since he discovered this body, right? That's you, right? You're the first person he encounters, right?
After discovering the body?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, he said he called the border patrol and then he called us and I got there first.
You got there first, and he tells you there's a dead body, there's a person here, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so after he goes to the house to get his jacket and he takes
Sorry, guys. I know this is cross-examination. We've heard some of it, but I'm still stuck on the fact that you didn't file or fill out your report for 2 days, up to possibly 2 days after the incident. Is it not your responsibility to do that before you go home? I'm not in law enforcement, but I thought you had to have all your reports done for that day before you left. I'm glad you went back and looked at the transcript and corrected your error, but it just, y'all.
takes you out to go see the body, why don't you start recording again at that point?
My recorder, I put it in the console and when Officer Rodriguez was
I thought all of you had to have yours recording the whole time you were on scene. I'm about ready to pull the goat out.
arriving to the gate, I stepped down the vehicle and left it in the center console.
Was it out of battery or something? Or did you?
No, I inadvertently left it there because I had put it there when I was when I stopped recording.
Okay. And Rodriguez, he wasn't recording either, as far as you know, correct?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
And any conversations then that you have with Mr. Kelly when Rodriguez is there are, to your knowledge, not recorded, right?
For my part,
Not from his vest.
When you went out to go see where the body was
Just laying
with
at my feet.
Rodriguez and Mr. Kelly, is that right?
yes, the three of us went over there.
And I think you said that Rodriguez examined the body. What did he do to examine the body? Can you explain that?
He kneeled down and he
had it back onto us, but I know he was checking for a pulse on the body.
You know he was checking for a pulse?
Well, like I said, I mean, he minutes later, he said the body was deceased.
Okay.
So he was checking to see if it was alive.
Do you remember if he put gloves on before he did that?
Nope.
No, I was kind of maybe 10 feet, a little tall,
Did
13
not.
feet.
So you don't remember and you didn't see that?
Like I said, I stayed far from the body so as to not disturb him, and he walked to it, and now down and started checking on the body.
Did you see him lift up any part of the body or touch the body in any way?
I don't recall. I don't know
Okay.
if he lifted the body or not, but he did say minutes later, or a few seconds later, that it was not alive.
And you don't recall if he touched the fanny pack or the backpack or anything like that either, right? Okay.
I don't remember his testimony of him doing that. Come on, baby, good. I wish y'all could see my puppers.
You go back, so Rodriguez tells you essentially to go back with Mr. Kelly, right? And to go wait somewhere away from the body?
No, he tells me to go with him so that the dogs can be secured.
Okay. The dogs and you and Mr. Kelly then leave the area. Do you know if anybody, whether Rodriguez or you, did anybody look for tracks around this body?
Nope.
When I left with the dogs, I didn't come back to the scene. So I'm not sure who looked for tracks or if Sergeant Rodriguez did, or I don't know who.
But you didn't look for any tracks.
Not me.
Okay. What were the dogs doing around this body? Could you observe their behavior?
I do remember when we were walking towards the body the first time to see where it was. One of the dogs went to the area when we were walking and kind of sniffed around the
Remain.
that's what I remember. The dogs were not sitting next to us or anything. They were there. But,
They were running
that's the only
free. They were
thing
investigating.
I can recall when we were heading there, that one of the dogs was in the area, kind of stopping and sniffing, but we were still walking to the body. That's what I remember.
Okay. And then you wanted to move the dogs away from the body so that they wouldn't contaminate the crime scene. Is
They
that
already
right?
did, y'all.
Yes, I can
They
believe
found the
someone
body.
that we taken to the house.
Gotcha.
What's a
And then you said that you're with Mr. Kelly, and at some point, I think you said it was Pacheco comes and puts him in handcuffs and says, "We need to get a statement from you." Is that right?
Yeah, Sergeant Pacheco arrived later on and told me he needed a statement from me.
And then put him in handcuffs and
Go
took
place.
Yes.
him in. Nobody attempted to get a statement from Mr. Kelly on the scene. Is that right?
No, when I walked, we just walked to his house and
Do you have any idea why nobody asked him any questions on the scene about what happened?
well, from my part, when we saw the body and it was deceased, I mean, we know we were gonna need a statement from him, but it's gotta be a formal one, so no questions were asked.
And
From my side,
nobody asked him to demonstrate on his property, this is what I saw, this is where I was, this is what I did. Nobody asked him to do that, correct?
not from my part.
Okay. So they just took him in and took him without asking him anything on the scene. I want
Not
you to
my
describe
dad, I
this
don't
area
know.
for me just a little bit, because you were there earlier in the day and then you came for the second call as well. Can you see the border wall from this property?
I don't recall. I know when I got there the first time, I went around and towards the south
I cannot imagine
southwest
you
side.
being able to see a border wall
And,
from more than a mile and a half away
Where the
through all those trees.
vehicle for Sergeant Garcia was at, she was on the road, on the road. So that's when I met with her. But I really don't recall viewing the wall. You can probably see it from there, but from my part, that day I didn't look for the wall. And again, we just went over there to see if we could find Mr. Kelly.
I doubt you can see it. I popped up that picture.
be
It's a
pretty
mile and a
far
half away, mile and a
Is that fair to
half,
say?
Yeah.
depending on which
So if a
direction you're
witness
looking.
described the border wall as being just 2 football fields away from this property, that would not be accurate. Is that right?
Like I said, I don't know how far the wall is from there. It's not near. It's,
If it were 2 football fields away, you would have seen it, right?
I would have seen.
And if a witness, you saw where the body was in relation to this house, is that right?
Yes.
If a witness said that this body was 10 yards away from the house, that would be incorrect, right?
I've got a AC. It sounds like the AC's blowing
It
up the
was to
microphone.
the east and probably more than 200 feet.
So 10 yards is definitely not.
It's not a fence. It's not like a horse fence. And then
My question is just 10 yards is
No,
definitely
not
not
10
correct, right? When you were on the way, when you were responding to this call, did you receive information that you got from dispatch prior to arriving?
they said that Mr. Kelly said he had struck something. That's all I remember from and I headed straight over there to from where I was at.
And you heard that on dispatch, so that was in your mind when you're out there. Mr. Kelly said he struck something, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you've already got a biased opinion.
Did you later learn that that was not accurate?
That he had struck something?
That Mr. Kelly had never said he had struck something?
I'm not even sure. I haven't reviewed the radio announcement. I mean the recordings. But
So you don't know who reported that or how it got transmitted to dispatch, right? You don't know.
Mr. Kelly did not call
I know they said it was from Border Patrol.
Border Patrol
So Mr.
ranch
Kelly
liaison's the
called
one that called Border
Border
Patrol. They
Patrol,
called 911. This is
and
your
then
sheriff.
dispatch put something out to you, correct?
Yes.
We have a moment here.
Woo, doggy. Boy, I didn't expect that. I hate when I have to sign in to my Ring app stopped working and I have to sign in. I couldn't remember the password. Verification code, verify. Okay, yay, I'm back into my Ring. Why can't I see the front camera? Okay. There we go. Okay.
When Rodriguez was checking the body, did you notice any blood stains? Did you see anything?
I just saw like this area of blood stain.
Okay, and that's when you were standing further away after you.
Yeah, I never got next to the body, just from the distance where I was at. That's what I saw.
This attorney next to her is not good at hiding her thoughts by her body
The body
language.
was located. Did they do anything to protect the crime scene at that point?
Did who?
Did anybody that you know of do anything to protect the crime scene at that point?
I left with the dogs and Sergeant Rodriguez remained there. From there on, I don't know what happened there. But he stayed He stayed there.
Was it dark outside?
Started getting dark.
I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Doctor. Deputy, was there anyone around to protect this crime scene from?
Yes, I believe.
So, was there anyone in the area that you needed to, like, protect the crime scene from? That's the question.
You always
This is a
protect the
rural
crime
area?
scene. What the heck?
Yes.
Is there anybody on the property
Other sheriff
other than
people.
Mr. Kelly who's with you that you're aware of?
Animals.
At that time, no. I know that probably his wife was in the house, but I'm not sure if she was or not.
Are there
Yo,
crowds of people milling around that you need to make sure don't make their way to the body?
No.
even police, sheriffs,
And you
border
just
patrol,
pointed a minute ago
sometimes
during
do
cross-examination
accidentally or
to where you
forget
saw
fully,
the
do
stain on the
stupid
victim.
things and
Could you
contaminate a
could
crime
you
scene.
point to that again,
To where?
where you said you saw the blood stain on the victim?
Somewhere in this area.
Can you stand up and show the jury, please?
Possibly this area. The body was laying face down, so I was able to, from where I was standing, which
That's
was
about
not
right.
next to the body, I was a few feet, but I did see some stain in this area. I mean, I'm not sure if it was right in here, but it was on the right side.
So somewhere on the right side, and tell me if I'm describing this correctly, you're describing sort of in the torso area, is that right?
Yeah, be right.
Either on the side or in the back?
Torso area, on this, like,
The right side of the torso
Yeah,
area?
that's the
Either on the
torso.
side or in the back, is that right?
Spanish is his first
yes,
language.
somewhere in there. I mean, I didn't, because I couldn't see the stain, but, in exactly, but I did see blood.
On the right side of his,
On his right side, yes.
and he's laying face down, so on the back.
Yes.
Backside. Back to the side. I'm really struggling with some of the questions the prosecution's asking. Of course, it doesn't matter how many people are on scene and who's there. You always need to protect the
And
crime
the
scene.
issue with your report,
First
you corrected
responders.
that, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Other agents
And your
come through there
reporting
and can
actually went
contaminate it
directly
too.
into evidence, is that right?
Yeah, yes.
So if anyone wanted to listen to your recording, they could have listened to it right away without your report, correct?
Yes.
Why would they?
So you don't know if anyone ever actually relied on that error in your report, do you?
I don't know.
But they did?
Does anyone at the sheriff's department have body cam?
Not that I know of.
And did they at this time on January 30th of 2023?
No, I don't think there's anybody with cameras.
So the only way you can record is with those recording devices that you referred to, is that right?
Yes.
And defense counsel asked you about the area where you were and how long it took you to get to the Kelly residence. Could you describe how you had to drive to get there?
When the call came up,
Yes.
so I was
Second
on
call.
second call. Yes, I was so if you take the cane, it leads to the
Kane Street, a road?
the road where I was at, which is FSR 4667. When I was in that area, we just check to see, since it's near the border, to just check, go drive slow, and to check to see if there's anybody, we see any movement. So I was quite in, I don't remember how much.
So he was close by.
From the cane from that. When I heard the call, I was like looking out, and then I started coming back
Okay.
to the area, and then you have to drive on
Hang on.
cane, then on Keno Springs, then on Sagebrush, then towards the house. So it takes several minutes to get there.
So it's kind of a roundabout way to get back to the Kelly residence.
Yes.
It's not a direct shot. There are a bunch of
The Forest
winding
Service,
roads.
the National Forest, is that adjacent to the Kelly property?
Yes.
And does the Forest Service Road go along the area adjacent, not exactly adjacent to the Kelly property, but near the edge of the Kelly property?
Yes. It's probably south of the property or southeast. But because they turn around, they curve around, and so I don't know where his property ends.
Okay.
But for sure, it's his property is in the area, but I'm not in the property. I'm like heading towards the border and those sites on the, those roads that there's several of them, not just one. I mean,
So let's talk
they
about
interconnect.
the main Forest Service Road. Does that go north and south?
Okay.
No, the main Forest Service Road. Does that go north south?
The main Forest
Do you know?
Service Road.
I don't know because
Okay. It curves around at some point, right?
yeah, there's curves. You're gonna go and then go down a ravine or wash and then cross it and then keep going. But they're not straight roads. They're curved roads and they interconnect with other service roads.
Service ranch roads.
I don't think I have any other questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Woo! Yay!
Any questions for this witness from members of the jury? Very well, I see none. Do you have a question, sir? Okay. All right, sir, you can step down. Is this witness excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Oh, next.
State calls the next witness.
I go to the state calls Dr. Tim.
Who? Did she say doctor? We'll find out.
Yeah, I was good. Let's collect the transcripts.
One of the reasons why she's asking about the written report and changing his is that some people did rely on his report for their report, and so it got implanted in the minds of people that he possibly hit the guy with a weapon, with a bullet earlier. And that is prejudging, I can't say that, prejudice.
The record will show that we collected the transcripts that were distributed for demonstration.
Yay. Housekeeping. That young man in this white sweater, he doesn't look old enough to be even out of high school.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in the matter before the court will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Uh-oh, she's got her paperwork. Love the shoes. I used to wear stuff like that. No more. Can't do it. I'm not comfortable anymore. I have old people's feet. Ooh, get yourself settled there, darling. Love her hair.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ooh, good.
Could you introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Dr. Krista Tim, Timm.
And where do you work in?
I work at the Pima County Medical Examiner's Office.
So you don't work for the county, you don't work for the Sheriff's Department here in Santa Cruz County?
No, I do not.
You don't work for you don't work for Santa Cruz County in any capacity, right?
Correct.
Now, sometimes the county, like Santa Cruz, will ask for the services of Pima County to help out with cases like this, right?
Yeah, we cover medical examiner office duties for Santa Cruz County and various other offices in Arizona.
And how long have you been with the?
This is going to be good.
5 years.
And let's talk about your education experience. Would you go to school?
I graduated from medical school at the University of North Dakota School of Medicine and Health Sciences.
Not a
I
bad
then
school.
did a anatomic pathology residency at the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio. I then did a forensic fellowship at the Cuyahoga County Coroner's Office, which is now Medical Examiner's Office, also in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm board certified in anatomic and forensic pathology.
How did you get into this line of work with that autopsy?
So good.
Through pathology training. I guess I was initially exposed during my medical school training. One of the pathologists there was responsible for covering the autopsy service. And so I was in medical school when I first saw my first autopsy and kind of just found pathology and forensic pathology through exposure.
You have to be one smart cookie for that job.
The career they are at, so that's more of a curiosity question. How many autopsies have you done in your 5 years of Pima County?
I don't have a number, but I typically am responsible for about 400 cases a year. Not all of those are going to be autopsies, though.
What are some of the other cases you work on?
External examinations. So if someone
She's
has
fairly young
trauma
on the
and they've
field,
survived it long enough to make it to the hospital,
but does not mean
and
she's
we're
not
able
adequate.
to make diagnoses through examination and imaging, such as a motor vehicle accident or something along those lines. So if the trauma is well documented, that would still fall under our jurisdiction for determining cause and manner of death because it's not natural. But an autopsy wouldn't be required most of the time for something like that because the injuries are documented.
So the purpose of, would it be fair to say the purpose of an autopsy is to determine the manner and cause of death?
Cause of death,
Mostly the cause of death.
the manner in which.
Is, of those 400 cases, how many are autopsies, approximate, per year? How many of them are autopsies?
I don't know, maybe half?
Okay. There's no test here, there's no, I'm gonna.
Yeah, there's not numbers that I keep track of.
So in 5 years, then you handled about 2,000 cases, autopsies and other examinations, right?
Yeah, of my own, correct.
Of your own. And how many other doctors are in your work facility?
She's not looking at the,
There's a chief medical examiner, a deputy chief medical examiner. There are 2 other full-time doctors, it calls the work group of doctors, that are handling the bulk of the cases. And then we have a split position, so 2 other doctors that split a full-time position. And we also have a forensic fellow who's in training to become a forensic pathologist. So 7, 8.
7 or 8. And of the 7 or 8, do you guys do like rounds? Do you guys discuss your cases with each other?
Yeah, in various capacities, but typically our day starts meeting at 8 o'clock, where the doctors who are on the schedule for autopsy service that day meet with the chief or the deputy chief, whoever's running the meeting for the day, as well as people throughout the office, investigators, anthropologists, the autopsy assistant staff, and students or people that are rotating through. We all get together for a morning meeting to discuss the cases that we have to handle that day or in the short term.
So it would be fair to say in the 5 years you get a pretty good breadth of a variety of cases that come through that office?
Yes.
And you discuss those cases with other practitioners, right?
That's correct.
And so before you became at the Pima County Coroner's Office, what was your career before that, before you stepped into the Pima County?
So following my fellowship in forensic pathology and becoming boarded, I stayed on at the Cuyahoga County Coroner's Medical Examiner's Office. And I worked there as a forensic pathologist from 2010 till 2015, at which point in time I took a job in Denver and was working as a forensic pathologist at the Denver office of the medical examiner.
this is
I
normal.
worked there up until I was
Qualifying
offered
her
a
as an
position
expert.
in Pima County in Tucson in 2019 when we moved here, or moved to Tucson. So I worked as a forensic pathologist my entire career.
So let's just jump to, were you involved in a case dealing with a shooting on January 30th?
Yes, I was.
How were you involved?
She's not even looking at it.
How did you get involved?
I was the autopsy physician. It was a case that was assigned to me that day.
And would that be just, you guys are all on call and certain people accept phone call if someone's on duty and that's the call they take, right?
The schedule is made out months in advance, and most days of the month there's going to be either what's called a D1 or a D2 doctor, so the primary doctor is the D1 doctor. They're going to be assigned the cases that come in that or are more complicated or that law enforcement is going to want to be in attendance for. And then after that, the D2 doctor is going to do the rest of the workload for the day. Typically, the caseload has increased, and now we have a D3 doctor a lot of days. So,
And were you asked to perform an autopsy on a body that came into the facility?
yes,
Do you remember what day that was?
I could look at my report.
Sure. Do you want to refresh your recollection? You can look at your report.
She brought it with her. Hallelujah.
Just for the record, that's going to be Government Exhibit 14.
On February 1st, 2023.
You remember what time of day that was?
The autopsy began at 8:30
8:30
in the morning.
Correct.
Do you remember the individual's name that you performed the autopsy on?
Gabriel Buitimea.
I'm going to show you, just for us, I'm going to show you a picture.
Camera, do not do it.
Your autopsy.
I'm ready, y'all.
Do you recall that picture?
I do not.
You don't recall that picture?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh! Snap it! That's not good. That's not good for the prosecution. Put a picture that you think she.
Let me go to your. Do you have your report in front of you?
I have my report, yes.
She doesn't always take the pictures. She'll take a lot of them, but a lot
Who
of
is in
times the
attendance?
other people who are working with her
you
during the
during
time of the
the
autopsy will take the photos. She tells them what
Myself,
to take.
Detective Ainza, and Deputy Barba from the Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office, and Chief Deputy Attorney Hunley from the Santa Cruz County Attorney's Office. And
Ooh, this was a very well attended autopsy. Ooh.
During your autopsy, walk the jury through what you do in an autopsy.
It's brutal.
so an autopsy is a medical procedure, typically for understanding the physiological or anatomic derangements that occur as to why a death comes about. It starts with an external examination in which we look at the outside of the body. We're looking for any areas of trauma, any evidence of therapeutic intervention, any scarring. We document basic body habitus, meaning the body length and the weight, looking at the hair, the tissue, fingernails. Just an overall appearance of the body is documented through the external examination. During that process, we take pictures or allow for people in attendance to take pictures, documenting all the things that we see. And then we will move on to the internal portion of the examination, in which we're looking at documenting the same things, right? So we're looking for trauma, we're looking for evidence of therapy, we're looking for evidence of previous surgeries, really to gain an understanding as to why this person died. During that process, we also can collect fluids from the body, blood for toxicology testing, vitreous fluid, the fluid from the eyes for toxicology or electrolyte testing, urine, anything else that might be pertinent to the case that we're working on.
Contents of stomach,
And then the body organs are removed from the body, and we take weights of all the organs,
measurements,
and then we section the organs with a knife to look for evidence of natural disease or documenting trauma. So each organ is processed in a similar fashion. We collect small samples that will be put in a fixative. If we wanted to look at them under the microscope, sometimes the cause of death isn't often
Obvious.
identifiable by the naked eye, and we can look at them under the microscope, so they can be embedded in paraffin and cut into glass slides, which will come back to us about a week later. And we can look at those slides under the microscope. Things such as like an acute heart attack might not be visible grossly, but under the microscope, we can see the
Grossly means
changes
by visual.
and make those diagnoses better. And then pictures could be taken along the way, and then the organs are all returned into the body cavity. The body is sewn and released to the funeral home or wherever the family chooses to have the remains taken after we're finished. At that point in time, I will dictate my findings to the transcription company, who then generates a report and sends it back to me. And then I wait for the toxicologist to come back, the results from that, slides if they've been processed, and take time and review all of that at the time when I'm ready to send the report out.
It can take up to 6 to 8 weeks for toxicology alone to come back.
Right? You recall this victim in this case, right?
Yeah.
Do you recall how the body came to you, came to the morgue? Came to the coroner's office, I mean, do you recall what condition? Was it in a bag? Do you recall that?
Yeah, it was in a body bag.
In a body bag. And Detective Ienza was there? Do you see him at the council table?
Yes.
And he was there?
Yes.
And was he in custody of the body? Do you know?
I do not know.
Okay. And then, was there an unwrapping of the body? Unzipping of the bag?
Correct.
Okay. And who did that? Did you do that, or did Detective Ienza?
Typically, that's what I would do. I look at the body bag and document whether there is a seal on the bag, so if the zipper has a seal around it, and take a picture, and then I usually cut the seal and unzip the bag. I also usually have autopsy assistants that are helping with that process, but in cases in which there's suspected trauma or inflicted trauma, usually I'm the person who will remove that seal and open the body bag.
And they also keep all of the little microscopic little grass and dirt or whatever
in our office.
that's in the body bag. They keep that for evidence.
Most likely, yes.
That's your habit?
Yes.
Okay. And did you take photos, or did Detective Ienza take photos?
I took photos, and Detective Ienza did. We both did.
I'm going to show you one of your photos in Government Exhibit 14. This is your report.
There is a vibration in this microphone. I think
Is
it's
that the
AC
person that
hitting it.
you
I feel it on my
received
eardrum.
for the autopsy?
Correct.
You're going to move to admit, and we'll call that 14, Government Exhibit 14A as an apple.
It's a constant little vibration.
14A. Hold on a second. So,
Your Honor, just for the record, I'm going to keep it very sanitized.
I just wanted to give a heads up. So,
Hopefully, we will not get a shot like we did last week of the bodies with the wound.
Who's that?
We actually saw an autopsy photo.
Gabriel Cuen Buitimea.
I am ready just in case. We should not see any, we might see a diagram, a drawing of, but we should not have seen the bullet wound on the actual body on camera. That was a big mistake by the camera person. Couldn't believe they showed it.
I'm going to show you a side photo, Government Exhibit 14B as in boy. Just for
You're getting a little close to that jury jury box. I'd zoom out a little bit.
Is that the same
You
individual?
can see all the headphones on the
You're
jury
ready to admit
box.
Exhibit 14B into evidence.
no objections, Chairman. Thank you. 14B is admitted. Permission to publish.
Now the jury can see it.
That's a side angle of the victim. Bruce, you saw that there, right?
Correct.
We should Government Exhibit 14C. That's in Charlie. You recognize that photograph?
Yes.
We're going to move to admit 14C.
No objections, Your Honor.
14C is permission to publish.
They
Walk through that. What
when
do
they
you
say
see- what does the
permission
jury
to
see in this
publish,
photograph?
don't,
At the top of the screen
oh,
is the top of the deceased.
hold on.
It's the head and face.
It's
From
blurry.
the left lateral view.
Are you
The
gonna
neck
keep it that way?
And left shoulder, there's a tattoo on the upper other left arm.
It shouldn't even be
As
shown.
well as kind of in the midline, just under the neck, the notch of the sternum is the exit gunshot wound.
That's the exit wound?
That's correct.
So that's him, yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that.
I'm gonna show you a different
I
angle.
can see just enough to know where the legs and head and all that is. I'm not gonna let you all that. We don't need to see. Okay. Don't come into focus and then trying to come back into
Recognize
focus.
that photograph? Is
Do
that a different angle, the same injury,
Correct.
same exit wound? To admit 14D as in dog.
No objection.
14D is submitted.
cameraman, woman. Oh,
Is that a different angle? Doctor?
okay, they did
Yeah,
blur it out enough.
Similar area of the body, just from the right side of the body versus the left.
They need to keep the camera on the one testifying. I'm sorry, family members may be watching this, other people who have sensitivity, so I am not going to be showing this. Even though it is blurred, it is not blurred enough. I can very well make up the shape
I'm
of
gonna
the
show you
body.
14E as in echo.
As you can see, even the prosecution is blurred. The body is blurred as well, but it is just not appropriate. He popped something up there like that, I'm gonna remove.
To admit 14E as in echo.
No objection.
14E is submitted. You have permission to publish.
What are we looking at here?
I just,
So this is the back of the body. The first, or the last two pictures we looked at were the front of the body. This is after the body has been turned over. We're looking at the right kind of back side. So the right arm is going to be towards the right side of the screen. The head is at the top of the screen. The feet will be at the bottom of the screen. It's all we see here is the waist. And then just under the right arm, on the lateral right back, or the side of the right back, is
Thank
the
you, Kim.
entrance gunshot wound.
yes, I said that sarcastically.
That's the entrance,
That's correct.
the entry room.
Joe, you show both of them together. That's my entry wound, correct?
Correct.
That's 14B is an echo, and I'll show you 14C. That's in Charlie, and that's the exit wound, right?
Correct.
So can you explain how that works? What's the Lord doing with the body, the entry and exit wound?
So typically, in general terms, entrance gunshot wounds are generally going to be, round and regular, have smoother margins.
Not torn.
They typically have an associated marginal abrasion that's usually smooth and rounded as well. As the bullet pushes through the skin, it creates that abraded margin. It's hot and it's moving fast. And as it pushes through the skin, it also pushes through whatever is underlying that skin. If it's bone, and especially if it's flat bone, it can create a characteristic fracture pattern to that bone. So specifically the skull or flat bone being the sternum, sometimes ribs, also flat bones, in which as the bullet pushes through it, it causes what is called beveling, in which an entrance gunshot wound will have internal bevelings, meaning that there's a punched out margin on the inside of that bone.
So if the bone is straight, like my hand,
external beveling. So as the bullet is leaving the body, pushes through that bone, it breaks outwardly. So internal beveling, entrance, external beveling, exit.
So it's
the
gonna,
flat bones, tubular bones, which are the bones of the extremities that are not, typically,
gonna break
you're not
in
going to have
direction.
those features associated with them. So it's something that we see most commonly with the skull, but we look for in other areas of the flat bones as well.
So you can determine based upon the injury, entry and exit.
Correct.
And just so the jury knows, 14E is an echo, that is an entry wound in your opinion.
Correct.
That's the right flank side of the victim.
The lateral right back.
And 14C is in Charlie, you can tell, in your opinion, that's an exit wound.
That's correct.
And so can you tell the jury the trajectory of the bullet that's going through? I mean, is it easy for you to describe and show how that bullet is traveling?
Sure. It's going from the right to the left, and it's going from the back to the front and upward in the body. That's the trajectory of the bullet in the body.
And what, in your autopsy finding, what does it, when that bullet enters the victim's body, what is it going through? What organs and bones and tissue does it go through?
Can I refer to my
Sure.
report? After perforating the skin and soft tissues of the right lateral back, it goes through the posterolateral right 6th, 7th, and 8th ribs, all of them. Intercostal soft tissues, so that's like the muscles and arteries and veins between the ribs is the intercostal soft tissues. There's associated internal beveling of the ribs that are fractured. It then passes through the right lung with injuries of the lower, middle, and upper lobes of the right lung. The pericardial sac, which is the fibrous lining around the sac of the heart, around the heart. The ascending aorta, so the aorta is the major artery that leaves the heart that supplies oxygenated blood to your whole body. The ascending part of it is the very first part after it leaves the heart. And then it goes through the sternum, which is the chest plate in the middle of the chest, and the anterior left second rib, which is right next to the sternum. And there's external beveling, which is, as we talked about, associated with exit gunshot wounds. And then it passes through the soft tissue and the skin of the left chest. There's associated fractures, hemorrhagic lacerations, and retained blood. In the sac around the heart, there's 50 milliliters of blood in the sac that's surrounding the heart. There's not supposed to be blood in that space. There's typically just a very small amount of clear fluid that serves as kind of a lubricant for the heart when it pumps. There's not supposed to be blood in that space at all. And there's 50 milliliters of blood in that space. And there's also 340 milliliters of blood in the right chest cavity. Again, there's not supposed to be blood freely flowing around your lungs on the right side of the heart or the right side of the chest. And there's 340 milliliters in the right chest cavity.
Would that be significant injuries to the body?
Very significant, yes.
And when you say there's blood flowing in the body, would that be like consistent with internal bleeding?
Correct. This is the blood that is still within the body cavities that I'm able to measure at the time of autopsy.
And just so we understand, bullets coming through the right lateral and it's coming out through the chest, mid-plate chest area, right?
Correct.
I'm going to show you Government Exhibit 14F. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes.
What's that a photograph of?
It's a closer up picture of the entrance gunshot wound.
You're going to move to admit 14F.
No objections.
14F is admitted, you have permission.
All right, you already said it, but just explain one more time what we're looking at.
This is a closer up picture with a ruler of the entrance gunshot wound of the decedent. You can see the central defect and as well as the marginal abrasion, that pink area around it is where that superficial layer of skin gets rubbed off as the bullet pushes through the body, the skin.
Is there something to be said about the shape of the entry wound? In your opinion, anything about this shape of
Sorry
the
about
entry
that,
wound?
y'all. I had to take a
It's
little break.
it's kind of has an oval shape to it. It's just a description, but I wouldn't call it an irregular, which is what we typically see with exit gunshot wounds. It's more rounded and regular with marginal abrasion consistent with an entrance gunshot wound.
I'll show you one more photo, 14G as
I apologize if y'all saw anything. I didn't. I feel better. It's hard to live 6 to 8 hours a day. You gotta.
What's that
What's wrong?
This is the exit gunshot wound, the exit gunshot wound.
to admit 14G into evidence?
No objection. 14G is admitted and you have permission to publish.
Walk the jury through what we're seeing on this photograph.
This is the exit gunshot wound. It's more irregular, not as rounded, but it has kind of angulated margins to it.
Do you recall the age of the victim in this case? The age of this person?
48 years old.
And did you have a conclusion to what had happened to him? A finding?
Yes.
What's your finding in this case?
Perforating gunshot wound of the trunk.
Is that consistent with homicide?
The manner of death is homicide, yes.
Manner of death is homicide. And you said some of the blood, you took out the organs and some blood, and you bisected the organs and you sent the blood out for testing. Is that what you did?
Yes. The organs were examined after they were removed from the body, and blood was collected at the time of examination. In addition to the fluid from the eyes and urine, and they were sent to the toxicology lab for a toxicology screen.
Just 1 second.
I'll pop this on.
As I'm looking, when you conclude your autopsy, what's the standard protocol we can do with the victim's body?
The organs go back in, and the body is sutured, and I release the body after I've finished everything, we've gotten everything we need. The body will be released to typically the funeral home that the family has made arrangements with.
You recall taking like nail clippings and hair and other items from the victim's body?
In cases such as this, that's typically a routine. It is done at the request of the investigative agency, and it's usually not done by myself, it's done by the people that assist
under the
me.
nails. DNA, like they scratched.
I'm going to show you, this is the only way I'm going to show, but I want to show you a picture of the
Just in
injury,
case.
one of the parts of the injury inside the body. All right, I'm going to show you what's been marked as 14H.
Yeah, they're showing a picture of the body opened. We're not seeing this.
You recognize that photograph?
I do.
And what's that photograph of?
It's the right chest cavity from the inside.
Oh, look at the
after
judge.
the lungs and heart had been removed. The lining over the inside of the ribs has been removed. So the pull is that lining across the lungs that really strip it away. And then it shows the area of fractures on the right lateral chest. The rib fractures specifically
From the injury.
from the inside of the body.
You're going to move to publish 14H as in house.
No objection.
14H is admitted and give permission to publish.
Oh, the jury's going to have a hard time with
One more
this.
time, just walk us through, like, you can draw on the board.
Do not,
Walk us through
Ann.
what we're looking at.
Do not. No.
Can you draw?
There's no.
Maybe.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay, so this is the vertebral column here from the inside of the body, so your spine, his spine. These little yellow white areas are going to be the ribs. And the pink between them is that intercostal soft tissue, mostly muscles, nerves, arteries, veins. And so the lungs and heart have been removed. This is the area of injury. So on the outside, we saw the skin and from the gunshot wound. This is looking at the inside of the wound. And here you see these irregular areas. These are all fractures of those ribs on the right, as well as it shows the external leveling on the ribs that were injured by the gunshot wound bullet.
Did you find in your autopsy, did you find any fragmentation of any bullet inside the body?
No.
Do you find any, you know the difference between a full-metal jacket and a hollow point is, for example? If you don't worry about it.
I'm not a ballistics expert. I have a general idea, but it's not my area of expertise.
So there's no bullet fragments found in the victim's body, is there?
That's correct.
And you're familiar with gunshot wounds?
Yes.
Of the 5 years you were with Pima County, how many gunshot wound autopsies do you think, estimate, how many you worked on and been consulted on?
Too many.
Too many. In your opinion, have you seen the difference between, say, a handgun injury versus a long rifle or longer type gun?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen shotgun wounds, I've seen rifle wounds, I've seen a lot of handgun wounds. But yeah, I mean, probably 100 just homicides. Most of those are going to be gunshot wounds, and that doesn't even include the suicide gunshot wounds that I see, which are many more than the homicides.
And in your opinion, with the entry wound, we have the damage we just saw, and we also have that exit wound. In your opinion, would that be from a handgun, a shotgun, or a gun like a long rifle or something different?
Objection, Your Honor. She said she wasn't a ballistics expert. We don't have that. She just generalizes the type of weapons that she comes across. Given to her. So I don't think she really has the skill set to be able to identify the type of weapon.
I think that the difference between a handgun and a shotgun and a rifle. And she testifies she's seen, quote, 2 million. So she's seen all 3 of these injuries in her career. So I think she can opine on what type of weapon was used for this injury.
The objection is stating the lack of foundation.
Dr. Tim, of the homicides that you've dealt with, or the suicides that you used, was gun related?
Yes.
And it was gun related. How many times have you seen a handgun used in either a homicide or a suicide?
The majority.
Majority. And when handguns are used, in your opinion, I'm sorry, back up, straight that. When you review a body from a handgun injury, you see the type of damage that handgun can cause, right?
Yes.
And you can see the internal of the body too. You do the same kind of analysis, like in this case with the handgun injury, right?
Yeah, gunshot wounds are processed in a similar fashion, yes.
So you see them, you see the wound, and you see the conditions of the body.
Yes.
Right? You also have a case with a shotgun. Yes. So you see the entry wound, see the exit wound.
We lost stream. Let me get it back. We lost stream. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened. It disappeared. Let me go back to the live stream. There we go. Put it back over here. Let me share it. That's one thing I love about this program. It doesn't take much to get it going. So let me get this.
Mine is suspected to be utilized in a shooting, correct?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, you get a narrative, and there's one in this case where a detective or investigator puts out there what they believe might have happened, right?
Yes.
So sometimes when you're forming opinions of types of wounds, you're being provided the information of what type of gun it might be. Isn't that true?
Correct.
But you weren't trained in distinguishing all the different types of guns and the wounds that it's capable of producing, correct?
Not all of them, no.
Okay, and there's a lot of guns on the market. Would you agree?
Yes.
And would you also agree that distance can make a difference of how the wound might look, correct?
Yes.
And the caliber or the type of bullets that come out of a gun, shotgun versus a BB gun, obviously would be different, right? The types of wounds that you could expect to see.
Yes.
Can you repeat the question?
That bullets can make a difference on the type of wounds that might be seen by you.
Different size of bullets, like a BB versus
The size of the
a 9
bullet?
millimeter.
Yes. The state asked you about hollow point and different types of other bullets, right?
Correct.
And in this case, there is no bullet, is there?
There's no retained bullet.
You were not shown any bullet that came from this case, correct?
Correct.
And you didn't find a bullet, correct?
Correct.
So you have no idea if this is a high-powered, larger type of bullet from a handgun or from a long rifle or any other type of rifle, correct?
Correct.
So I will continue with my objection.
Objections to state.
Yay!
Would you ask the jurors to please disregard?
I'll be right back, y'all.
May I try to?
Package is fine.
May I try?
Objections to state.
Let me ask you a question, Dr. Tim. Would this injury be consistent with a weapon, a gun? Can you just agree to that? Would this be consistent with a weapon, a gun?
Yes, this is a gunshot wound. The cause of death is a gunshot wound.
And did you find in your analysis of the skin or clothing any kind of residue around the injury or entry and exit or clothing that you may or may not have? Did you find any gun residue?
I did not notice any fouling or stippling on the surface of the skin at the time of examination, which is burnt and unburnt gunpowder. Typically seen in intermediate range gunshot wounds. So a gunshot wound in which there is a muzzle to target distance.
Object I believe that was the question and she's going into her own narrative.
I'll just state that, but you can ask another question.
So we explain to it, once again, explain what stippling is, real quick, for the jury.
Stippling is small punctate abrasions on the surface of the skin around an entrance gunshot wound in which it's an intermediate range, meaning the distance from muzzle to target is a few inches up to approximately 1.5 feet for most weapons.
And there's no such stippling in this case?
That's correct.
And how about gunpowder residue or any of that? Anything like that in this case?
No.
And what would that be indicative of if there was gunpowder residue on the skin?
They're both seen in intermediate range gunshot wounds.
I'm going to go have to watch that part again, but I think I have a gist of what was going on.
And let me ask about correlating in your experience. What's the term correlating refer to?
Bringing together information, seeing if it relates.
And that's, so in this case, what kind of correlation do we do in this case when you look at an autopsy like this? What do you do? I mean, you're considering a bunch of data points. You're considering entry wound, exit wound, and all those things, right?
Sorry.
Just walk me through what kind of correlating would be happening in an autopsy like this.
So The biggest thing is I'm looking for cause of death. So I'm going to look at the body. I might have a story as to how someone comes in and how the story fits with what I'm seeing on the body. Sometimes the story would be someone shot themselves, and I do the examination, and I think that doesn't really fit the story. So there needs to be further investigation. If the story was that this person was shot by someone else, I want to make sure that it's not, a contact gunshot wound was going to be more consistent with someone shooting themselves, or possibly no one considered that information. So we want to see that the story fits what we're looking at.
And were you told anything about when the body comes in and you're asked to do an autopsy? Were you told anything about the story in this case?
I don't remember specifically the exact information that I received, but I would have had some information, yes.
Do you remember it being inconsistent with your findings, the story being inconsistent with your findings?
No.
That's all the question I had, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Let me talk to counsel for.
I'm sorry. You're right. On the injury, doctor, if I may, Your Honor. On the gunshot, the injury and the damage to this person, how impactful is this on a victim's ability to survive it, or the length of time to survive an injury that you saw?
So there's injury to the major artery, right, the aorta, which is the vessel that carries oxygenated blood to the heart muscle itself, to the brain, to the muscles, to all of the vital organs. That right after it comes out of the heart. And there's a large laceration tear through that artery. So oxygenated blood isn't going to be reaching where it needs to reach. It's just going to be collecting outside of the normally closed system. So life can be sustained until the reserve is gone, which is, a cardiac cycle or so. Or an injury like this can be fatal pretty quickly. I wouldn't call it instantaneously lethal. Typically, when we think of instantaneous death, it involves the brainstem. So the respiratory and cardiac centers are all within the brainstem. If we have a gunshot wound that goes through the brainstem, it's considered pretty instantaneously incapacitated death occurring. Here it's going to be pretty quick because it's the very large artery that is injured, and the blood isn't going to be going where it's supposed to be going. Maybe function retained for a few minutes. It's really hard to know. There's so many variables that go into each person. The underlying state of health, what the person was doing prior, so many different things that play into that, and really no way of studying multiple people getting multiple gunshot wounds and this type of injury. So an estimate would be, a few seconds to a few minutes.
A few seconds to a few minutes?
And the brain can live on for another 3 to 5 minutes, sorry.
In a few minutes, the individual continue walking like normal or running like normal for a few minutes, or is it death within a few minutes? You understand the difference between the two?
I do, and both of those are possible.
Are they on the distance and the time of death? It depends upon the victim, right?
Correct.
And there's no way of knowing about, would there be a blood trail? Would this kind of injury cause a blood trail?
She's not forensic.
Potentially, there are two defects from which blood could leave the body, right? There's an entrance wound and an exit wound. And so if the blood was leaking out of either of those wounds and the person was moving, there could be blood on the ground. Or he was clothed, so it could just be being absorbed by the clothing. Many things that I don't have an answer to.
Many variables. Can't say for sure.
The victim could have been stopped in his tracks and collapsed also.
Possibly.
Could the victim talk with this type of injury?
Potentially.
Not for long, but yeah.
Thank you. Let me talk to counsel. Yes.
Sorry about that, y'all. I love eating these nuts, but they stick to my teeth. I don't know why. So, potentially, he could talk. Would die within a minute or few. Seconds to minutes. Everything's a variable in this case. But what they have not proved is that the bullet came from that man's gun. And that's what they're going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't see it yet. Once again, we don't have the aha moment. I don't know. I got to go back and watch. I don't know if she stated the time of death. I was wondering if they even asked it. So we're going to go back and look.
Well, it's time for lunch. Who's hungry?
Yay, lunch break! Let's give
All
them
right.
applause.
We're a little early. Another judge has scheduled a break at 1 o'clock and requires the court reporter. So we're going to break a little early to give the court reporter a little extra time for rest. We will recommence at 1:30. Please pay in the jury room at that time. Excuse the jury, and I'll stay here with counsel. Have a good lunch.
Right, report.
You can.
I'm watching another video.
You are speaking with counsel, cognizant that one counsel is not from Arizona. We're trying to schedule a walkthrough or a preliminary walkthrough with counsel, with attorneys. And we're hoping the scene. And we're hoping, if the court's amenable to it, that the attorneys get together to go to the defendant's residence tomorrow morning. You start at 10:30 with the jury. It gives us an opportunity to go see the scene, go back and figure out, and it gives us an opportunity to address the court and talk about what's agreed and what's in conflict. So we're hoping to see if we can start court more at 10:30, because counsel isn't necessarily busy working, going to the scene, looking at the scene.
Oh, so they're taking the jury to the scene of the crime. Oh, this makes
Yeah, I'm aware of this conversation, and I know it's up to the court on the timing of this. The defense has seen it, but we're prepared to go out and allow the state to look at it prior to the actual jurors going out, so we have no argument with that. And we were just trying to figure out the timing, and it was suggested by the state to do it at that time. If the court would agree, we would agree.
Is there any other time? I mean, I really hate to use a trial time for that. Especially since we talked about this before trial. I suggest to the parties that they do this before trial, so we don't take up trial time. Is there any other time we can do this?
after trial.
Use time that we otherwise use for trial.
We can do this weekend. I was just being courteous to counsel.
Weekend? This is only Tuesday.
I was trying to be courteous to this.
That's fine. I thought you were here for the duration.
oh, I'm not going out of state. I just have family in different parts of Arizona, and I thought nothing was happening this weekend and arranged for my time to be in Phoenix. Since we have 3-day weekend, I didn't realize that was going to be cut into. So I also suggested we leave. Well, you don't have court on Mondays, so it makes it a 3-day weekend for me. Since I'm in a hotel, I was scheduling something to do. I have another alternative suggestion that we leave at 4 and we go directly from court out there.
Suggestion so they don't take up court time.
In the state to see.
Sorry, I'm going a little bit hyped up.
Allows us to recess early. The hours between 3 and 5 are, usually when people are a little tired and they're potentially less attentive than they are in the morning. So we could, when is it getting dark?
True.
That work?
That works for the state.
Yes, for us too.
As long as it's not today, we do have 2 witnesses today who have scheduling issues, so we just don't want to handle a scheduling issue.
You all you folks work it out. I think that's their suggestion, just because it's a better time of day. And the jury's never disappointed on the excuse of the world. So let's try and work. Right. Okay. We can discuss it. We're
Yay, and I'm all caught up. Woohoo! Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Okay, y'all, I'm going to take a break. I know I've been up and down and in and out, but I've got somebody coming in here in 10 minutes. So we will come back with the afternoon session. Once again, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate your time and your attention, and I look forward to seeing you this afternoon. We will do an end cap at the end of the day and kind of go over through what we've heard if you're just hopping on, and then we'll be back for tomorrow. In the meantime, y'all go do a stretch break, y'all go to lunch, do whatever it is you guys got to do, and I shall see you back here in a little bit. Bye.